Good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to the June 9th meeting of the City Planning Commission. My name is Jeff Carson. I'm serving as chair of tonight's meeting. I'll make a couple of introductions before we get started. We've got the following commissioners present here with us tonight. In the chambers here with me, we've got Commissioner Ward and Commissioner Beth online. I'm sorry. You saw me just walk in. I've got Commissioner Strauss, Commissioner Mueller, Commissioner Jones, and Vice Chair Jones, Commissioner Armstrong, Commissioner Ernst, and Commissioner Schwartz. I will turn the meeting over now to Rose Morse, who will read the opening statement on how we'll run tonight's meeting.
Hey, welcome everyone to the City Planning Commission. The members are participating remotely by a Zoom webinar or in person in the commission chamber. Mr. Jeff Carson is serving as chairman this evening. Please note the following instructions for the meeting. Planning Commission members that are attending by Zoom, please make sure that you're visible during the meeting and use the raise your hand feature to speak. After Chairman Carson recognizes you, unmute your microphone and please state your name when you begin to speak. If you are in person in the commission chamber, when Chairman Carson recognizes you, please state your name before speaking. For those members of the public in attendance via Zoom or telephone, use the raise your hand feature when you want to speak on an issue. The chairman will recognize you when it's time to speak. Unmute your microphone and state your name and give your address before giving your comments. If you are attending in person, please come to the microphone at the front of the room as the application is being called, and the chairman will recognize you when it is your time to speak. Proper meeting decorum is expected of all participating in the meeting, and anyone who fails to act properly will be removed from the meeting. The city reserves the right to discontinue a meeting if any improper behavior occurs, which prevents the uninterrupted conduct of business. We had a change to our agenda this evening. So we are moving the reports up before the consent agenda. So our next item would be the resolution for moratorium on parking requirements east of I-635. It is a resolution for a moratorium on the minimum parking requirements for commercial properties and residential properties with less than 6 units in a mixed-use setting for locations east of I-635.
All right, and who are we going to have present on that? Mr. Lucas, are you going to present on that?
That would be Assistant County Administrator Alan House.
Okay, great. Yes, sir.
All right. Good evening, Chair Carson, members of the commission. My name is Alan Howes and Assistant County Administrator. I'm presenting on this tonight on parking minimum moratorium. And where's the clicker? There we go. This recommendation that is coming before the Planning Commission emerged from the Business Development Task Force that Mayor Garner created. This started meeting in September of 2024. It's chaired by Commissioners Burrows and Stites with members of the business community and a broad range of experiences that are participating in that. There's been staff involvement from multiple different departments, and the task force is looking at a range of different areas that could simplify and make it easier to do business in KCK. Part of the work of the task force has been supported by a report that was created by an organization called CityWorks that did an analysis and worked with the city. That's helped to kind of provide a roadmap of ways, again, to make it easier to do business. And within that report, parking requirements is one of the recommendations that was in that report, and the task force took that up and has had a number of conversations around that. The task force is hoping to bring additional recommendations forward to the Planning Commission here in the next months. And in fact, the task force met today and was talking about things like the sign code and ways to make that less complex as well. So with that, I'll go to the next slide. So like many cities, the unified government and specifically the KCK code has a lot of parking requirements for many different types of land uses as well as business types. So parking can come in both of those areas. You can see some of the information on the slide here. As an example, restaurants have one space per 50 square feet of seating plus an additional space per 300 square foot of remaining floor area and a minimum of 10 parking spaces for places that have less than 500 feet. With the price of parking being anywhere from $5,000 for a surface to $50,000 for structured parking, so you can add a significant amount of cost to a business. And we heard some examples in the task force of people trying to come forward and start a business in an existing building, existing location, and getting hit, if you will, with the parking amendment minimum, and that becoming really an inhibiting factor in them being able to open that business because of that upfront cost before you ever open your doors. You can see in here, there's additional ones for hotels and motels, and then other commercial uses also have to provide 4 spaces per 1,000 square feet of total floor area, again, regardless of the type of business. So there's parking that is really scattered throughout the code. And legal counsel has worked closely with the task force members to identify where those are. We also went back and staff looked and did some research, and since May of 2015, there have been 500 zoning variances that BOZA has heard, and 97 of those were due to parking minimum. So it's the second most common type of variance that has come before the Planning Commission. Go to the next slide here. So what is the intent of the moratorium? The task force saw the moratorium as a way to really pilot the idea of what would it look like if we lifted parking minimums, parking requirements, and allowed property owners and business owners the flexibility to set parking based on the type of building they were building or the type of use or business they were opening. So in a sense, you're taking it out of the government saying this is a requirement and putting it back to the business owners to say you all have the flexibility to meet what matches your need for your business. It allows property owners to sort of maximize their property's potential. It removes this barrier to redevelopment of properties. So in areas where we've got traditional commercial corridors with lots of existing building stock, that parking can be a barrier to that redevelopment. Again, if you have to have a certain number, like 10 spots, and you're in an area where that is very difficult to come by, it makes it harder to put those buildings back into productive use. It becomes a barrier, as I spoke to, about starting new businesses and to expansion of existing businesses. If they don't have the footprint on their lot, they may want to do an expansion, but if they have to meet a parking minimum, that may inhibit them from being able to do an expansion because they have to consume X amount of land for parking. It also, as we'll talk about in a minute, applies to mixed use properties with up to 6 units. So there was conversation in the task force about residential side, and there wasn't a desire to go recommending fully lifting parking requirements around residential, but saying, again, given the typology we have in parts of our city where we've got older building stock, where you've got first floor commercial and you've got the potential for apartments above, that having that kind of mixed use building be put back into productive reuse and not have parking be a barrier to that happening. Again, allowing the building owner, the business owner, to match the parking need to the use that's intended. So it does potentially have the ability to increase the supply of housing, and really talked about piloting this for a period of 3 years. And as it said, east of 635, and really sort of think, if you go in your head from north to south through KCK, you've got Quindaro, you've got downtown, you've got Armourdale, you've got Argentine, you've got Rosedale. And so what started as thinking about what would this look like if we did it downtown became a recommendation to look at east of 635, where we have different commercial corridors in different stages, you might say, of health. And how could we see how this impacts and possibly injects new energy into some of these existing commercial corridors. So this proposed parking moratorium is east of 635. It is 3 years. And the task force just talked about the timeline and, what made sense. And 3 years kind of seemed to be the sweet spot where it's enough time for projects to go through the cycle, go through the process, mature and produce, and to be able to measure sort of the impacts of that, where they thought if 1 year would be too short. So that's kind of where we ended up on the 3 years. And it provides the opportunity for the commission to pull back on that at really any time during that 3-year period. Or if they in fact see that it's positive in what it produces, then they would be able to go ahead and make that permanent. So it lifts the parking requirements for any commercial development. That's the proposal, and lifts parking minimums for mixed-use projects up to 6 residential units. And again, as I mentioned, it doesn't really touch other residential units. It's not looking at large multifamily and other sort of typologies for residential projects. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to legal to talk about the specifics around the code. Wendy?
Good evening, Wendy
evening.
Green, Deputy Chief Counsel for the Unified Government. If we look at this next slide, specifically, this is getting into the language of the resolution that is before you and that will, upon your recommendation, be before the Board of Commissioners. And what this first section is saying is it lists all of the ordinance sections in Chapter 27 out that specifically deals with parking. And what this is going to say is that from the date of the passage of this specific resolution, we are not going to enforce these sections. So we won't have any parking minimums for commercial development for in these specific sections of Chapter 27 or Section 27. If we could go to the next slide, Section 2 is what we were talking specifically at. If there's a mixed use in a property, if you have a commercial use, and then you also have residential use, as long as there's 6 or fewer units in that building, then the parking minimums aren't going to apply to that particular property as well. If it's just a residential property, this doesn't apply to it at all. So this moratorium won't have any effect on only a solely residential property. And then if you look at Section 3, this is saying if there's already parking there, then the normal parking rules as far as if you have an ADA spot, how far apart your spaces have to be, et cetera, those rules will continue to apply if it already does have parking there. So we're not suspending any rules as far as existing parking is concerned. And finally, in Section 4, this is stating that the resolution is going to apply to all property within the jurisdiction of the unified government east of 635. And then finally in Section 5, that this is going to apply for 3 years. So in essence, we just want to see how this works. And if it's been a huge benefit, then then everybody can take a look at it in 3 years and decide if they want to continue it at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Are you done with your presentation? Any questions from the commission? I guess I just have a couple. How would this impact short-term rentals at all, or would it?
It would not have any impact on those because those are still residential units.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Beth, did you have a comment? Okay. Any other questions? I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones.
My question is, I get the 3-year moratorium, but any businesses that get to take advantage of this during that time, let's say after the moratorium, it's not continued with, would they still be able to keep what they got during the moratorium?
Yes, they would. That's why it's any business that applies during this time and that goes into effect during this time, they get to keep that. It would be businesses after the 3 years that would come into play, new businesses that would get new permits, business licensing. If this does not stick after the 3 years, then they would not get the benefit, but any business that comes into effect during this 3-year time frame would.
Okay, and then my other question is, so at the end of the 3 years, can you, I think you touched on it a little bit, but can you confirm what is the assessment process going to be like and by whom? Still task force, commissioners?
At that point, it would just be the commissioners, considering the task force may not be around at that point, and the task force does not create law or change law. So the commissioners, because this is a moratorium on an ordinance, on multiple ordinances in that case, it would be up to the commissioners. And then first, any change to the parking requirements would have to come before the planning commission, because it is all under chapter 20 or section 27. And go ahead.
Commissioner,
And then from
I'll
there,
add,
I imagine a recommendation would be made normal.
I was just going to add that you were asking about how does it be assessed, and that would be looking at the number of permits. So planning and economic development would be looking at that data over that period of time, looking at, again, numbers, looking at locations, and just using that period to ascertain the impacts and if there's any things that need to be taken into consideration from neighborhoods or business districts and those sorts of things.
All right.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Easterwood.
Good evening. In cases where the commercial property abuts a residential neighborhood, what happens if parking becomes a problem and the commercial property patrons start blocking adjacent residential property owners?
In that situation, we do have ordinances for if they're blocking a driveway of a residence, and the homeowner at that point can contact the authorities and make a complaint.
What
So we
if
already
the
have
street,
rules in place. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, what if it's street parking, primarily street parking, and there's no parking left for residences in that neighborhood?
At that point, I would hope that the homeowners in that point would contact their commissioners. And then maybe if that is an issue, we could assess the situation at that time as well.
You good, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Straws.
Yeah, this is kind of a piggyback on Commissioner Easterwood and a total. I think maybe the goal of this being east of 635 is to create density downtown for businesses and to maybe revitalize what we've got going on downtown to ease restrictions for businesses. But I guess we sit on this commission a ton, and you're right. This is the second most requested thing that happens, parking variances. And we've gone late into the midnight hour on a lot of different projects that people want to build in our downtown area. And we want to make sure that we've got adequate parking. And I wonder, this task force and the moratorium and the things that we're talking about doing, are we modeling this after something, or are we just kind of throwing this up against the wall? Or I know that greater minds than mine have thought through this, but is there something close that has done something like this where we've seen success in revitalizing a downtown corridor by restricting and kind of releasing parking? If that makes any sense, my question. I know it's kind of a roundabout question, but
Yeah, as Commissioner. Yep. We're definitely not throwing something against the wall. So this is something that a number of other communities have undertaken in recent years. Some with the focus on residential, others more the focus on commercial. So, that is kind of where we're able to look at and see other communities and where this has had an effect. There are some cities, if you look at Minneapolis is often sort of spoken to. Theirs was, again, on the residential side and around transit corridors, and then ultimately became citywide. Other cities have focused it around their transit corridors. So there's kind of a mixed bag, if you will, of cities that are experimenting or have lifted these. And again, the impetus is really saying, rather than having a government requirement on parking that comes with a significant cost, were to put that back to the business owners who are incentivized to park their projects appropriately. In other words, so their people have a place to park and come and visit their businesses or live in a unit above a business. So I don't know if that may be a
No,
roundabout answer to your question, but
no, it doesn't. I think that by full build outs all the way to the square inch and the setbacks and not allowing for any parking, I think, and not having any restrictions, and we're just saying we're going to leave it to the business owners. And I know how much it costs to plan for these buildings, and we're talking 3 years. We may not have a brick down between now and the end of this 3 years on new projects coming in. We may or may not sure. I just think that saying we're just going to have no restrictions and no oversight on parking, period, is a little challenging to think through when we talk about parking as much as we do in new projects, new business. I'm all for building up businesses and enticing businesses to come. I just think that we may be just kind of cutting the faucet of oversight completely off for what we want our downtown to look like, and then the residents that may have to live around this new development that we're talking about bringing in. That's all. That's my comment and kind of question and response.
and I might add that the task force did sort of talk about this, and the commission expressly has the ability to pull this back. So if it started to go sideways and there were consequences that people were very unhappy with, the commission could pull that back. We also did some analysis around the number of available parking spaces in the downtown, as an example. And there is a lot of parking that is available, whether that's street parking and on-street parking, whether that's structured parking. When you look at the different lots, whether those are publicly owned or privately owned, there is a lot of spaces downtown. And if we get to the point where we have so much redevelopment downtown that we need to then pivot to a different kind of a parking strategy, that'd be a good problem to have. Right now, we have the challenge of not enough development in those storefronts, and a lot of parking that is available. And so this is an effort to say, okay, if we do something different, if we remove some regulations that currently operate on businesses and property owners, can we see if this will in fact spur the kind of redevelopment that I think there's broad agreement would be desirable for the city.
Yeah, and my only, and I'll uh, send it back to the chairman after this, is looking at a business such as like 7th Street Casino, where they have no parking and no parking variance, and you go down there and every block is full of cars just trying to get into that one small business. If we had that times 20 in that corridor with no parking, it just seems like it may create a, you know, it may create a bigger problem. But I guess if we have businesses, maybe we tackle that when we get there. But I get the point. So I yield back.
Thank you, Commissioner Strauss. Commissioner Easterwood.
Yes, forgive me if this has already been covered, but is this just for new businesses?
No, it's for any sort of property type.
But I mean, it wouldn't be retroactive to
It
any
would
current business that's currently operating.
You're saying it would not be?
That's what we're trying to ascertain. I think
Oh,
that was one of your question, correct,
Yes.
Commissioner Easterwood?
Correct.
This is when agreeing with the legal department. It would be for new businesses and any business renewing their licenses.
All right.
Okay.
All right, Commissioner Jones.
Yes, I wanted to piggyback on a point I think that Commissioner Strauss was trying to make. So one, a comment in terms of, I see this as somewhat businesses self-regulating themselves with regard to the parking situation. And sometimes that can be met with success. Sometimes that can be dangerous. And I think maybe that's where he might have been going, the danger zone. And so what I say to that is some sort of compromise. My wonderment is, has that been thought about? Or like a hybrid in terms of it's not an all or none. It's not either regulation or self-regulation. Perhaps there are some guardrails or parameters that are put on so that, you know, a business can decide, hey, I need the high, the medium, or the low, so that it's just not, you know, whatever somebody wants, which I could see cases where that might be a little bit dangerous. Was there any thought to that?
There was, I guess, a discussion in the task force that probably most directly in the residential and how to deal with that. And that was ultimately where the task force came down in recommending that it be limited to 6 units or less in multi-use buildings. Because I think people trying to wrap their heads around if it was a larger multifamily project, what, you know, how do we manage through that? And so that was really kind of the middle ground I think that you're talking about, was to say, okay, we'll sort of stick our toes in the water on the residential with this mixed use up to 6 units, but we're not going to get into that that conversation. Let's try it over here. Try it with the mixed use and the commercial, and see how that goes for 3 years. Again, with the ability for the commission to pull back on the reins if there was something that came up that was problematic, or, you know, come back and make some additional changes to Chapter 27 to address those things. So this is, in some sense, I would say a reset, but it's saying, okay, let's kind of step back on the requirements, the government requirements, you know, and see how the market responds, and then let the government have the next move after that, seeing how that plays positively, and if there are any negative things that need to be taken into consideration.
All right, thank you. Any other questions from the commission? Commissioner Beth?
Question. So does this cover commercial developments also for the exemption?
That's correct.
Is there a safeguard in there as far as the size of the commercial development as in regards to the residential area? Because a lot of the things we've heard are necessarily a big business, but small businesses that are in residential areas where there's not enough parking and they park on the street. But is there, or can there be something to put a stopgap in there based on the size of the, or the capacity of the business? Because like if you rent out say you rent Nefertiti's and they have no parking lot and you have events regularly with 500 people attending there, you could fill up the neighborhoods real quick with cars parking there. So like, could there be something in there, say like if it's a business and you're anticipating more than 100 people, that you have to provide excess parking or something like that, to just to protect something like that from happening? Somebody great to have a successful business, but if it's in a neighborhood that has on-street parking and all your customers take up the neighbor's parking, I can see where that would be a concern with some of the questions that's being asked.
This is Wendy Green again with legal. I understand that too. And the way this resolution is written, that is not within the realm of this resolution. So the only thing I could say is if that does end up being a concern, and if that does end up happening, then that is a reason for the commission to claw this back and the moratorium, definitely.
And I think maybe it's overlooking, because that's the reason you put the gap on, or the cap on the 6 units for the residential thing, to avoid an apartment complex overfilling the area with cars. So the same thing could happen to a business. You put a big business in there and with no parking lot, and they fill up the area with cars. So it's the same thing, just difference between a residential density and a business density.
Again, this is Wendy Green with Lingle. One thing that could be looked at though would be the zoning itself. Though if there was already a residential zoning and a commercial business wanted to go into the middle of a residential zone, maybe that could be a factor and looking at changing the zone itself, whether that would be something that would be appropriate.
All right, thank you. You mentioned before this has been done in some other cities or it's been tried out. What are some examples of the cities that are currently doing this?
Well, the closest one is Lansing. So Lansing has lifted their parking minimums. Not to say,
I'm talking about comparable to our size.
yeah.
I mean, that, I'm not worried about Lansing right now.
Right.
I'm worried about, I mean, we're the third largest city in the state, correct?
Yes.
Give me some examples that are comparable to us with aging infrastructure and that kind of thing. I'm sorry, legal counsel, Mr. Farley.
Good. Yeah, Mike Farley with legal. I know Fayetteville, Arkansas, I would call that fairly comparable. They recently also ended parking requirements in their downtown.
Okay. Anything else? I mean, is this relatively new or is this something that a lot of places are trying? Are we part of a test? I mean, is this kind of a test project? I mean, how long has Fayetteville been doing it?
There are a lot of communities, and we could bring a map back or share that with the commission. I should put that in the presentation, showing where different communities are that have removed their parking requirements sort of in various capacities.
I'm just always concerned when something like this of this magnitude comes, that if we can't provide examples of where it's been that's comparable and then what success or otherwise has been seen. I mean, that to me, to make a decision on something like this, that's the kind of information that I typically look for. I bring it up akin to Neighborhood Revitalization Act. Somebody brought that up years ago and I was here at a meeting for that. And they said, I think it was Des Moines, Iowa. Okay, that was comparable. But then we go back to Des Moines and it didn't make any impact at all in what was going on there. And so that's kind of where I'm at, is what impact did it provide? Did it provide what we thought it was, or were there unintended consequences? So that was my only question. So thank you. I'm going to go to Commissioner Easterwood again.
Sorry. Yes, in reference to potential issues that may arise, it's been said that the commissioners could always pull it back. But what if a business has, been established with the new rules and regulations in reference to parking, and they base their business on the fact that there are no parking requirements? So what happens then?
This is Wendy Green with legal. They are grandfathered in. So if, because that would, again, there are due process requirements that go along with whether or not we can then revoke their business license based on parking requirements. But then what we would do is we would hopefully try to work with them and have them work with the community that they are a part of to come to some sort of resolution to that. But no, we could not revoke their business license based on parking after they got one without that requirement.
Thank you. Commissioner Jones?
So then based on what I've heard, I feel compelled to ask, is there going to be full and complete transparency to where business owners that come during this period are advised that, hey, basically this is a pilot, is what I would call it. And I think I heard that commissioners could pull it back at any time. So will people know, full disclosure, anybody that a business that falls under this proposed 3-year period, that if something goes awry or it gets pulled back or something happens, they know that up front clearly. No surprises.
This is Wendy Green again with legal.
Because
Yes,
when you invest in development, as we all know, you don't want that.
yes. Wendy Green with legal again. Yes, we could advise them of that during the planning process. Absolutely. So either through DRC or if they are seeking any other entitlements, they could be advised of that, definitely.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Ernst?
I know that we had 2 of our esteemed commissioners on the committee, and we had business owners who were interested in the subject, quite obviously. Were there members, past or present, of planning and zoning staff on the committee. And I ask that because some years ago, I'm really old and have done this too long, we worked up new codes that were never adopted. And one of the things we focused on, Byron might remember this, was parking. And we were going to change more in line with what you're doing. So it makes it a good thing, but were there staff involved in this decision-making process?
Thank you, Commissioner Ernst. Yes.
Yes, Wendy Green with Legal, thank you. Yes, we did have part of planning staff. They are not members of that task force, but they were at the task force and they were answering questions of the task force members. And they also helped present what the current parking requirements were and helped along with what we could do to help ease parking requirements. And actually it was staff, Mike Farley, who was a former member of planning, and myself that helped draft this resolution. So staff was actually heavily involved, who were members of planning and former members of planning, actually.
All right. Thank you, Commissioner Mueller.
I'm fearful that we get a task force for parking, we get a task force for this, we get a task force for this. Chiming in with Commissioner Ernst, that basically is not what normal, I would presume, protocol be to have this all done and dealt with through planning and zoning staff and then come to some sort of resolution. It just seems awfully loosey-goosey to me, and I'm fearful that we could see a lot more of these, and it could create a lot of confusion.
Statement or question?
A blathering statement.
All right. Thank you. So noted. Okay. Any other questions from the commission before I go to the audience? Okay. I'm going to go to
Commissioner,
Yes.
if I might.
Yes, sir.
just,
Go ahead.
Well, you were asking for some examples, so I was just looking that up quickly of sort of comparables. So just to kind of quick, Lexington, Kentucky, Branson, Missouri, Birmingham, Alabama, South Bend, Indiana, Richmond, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, all cities that are kind of in our size category.
Okay.
And then larger ones like Austin, Texas, and St. Paul and Minneapolis and others around the country.
Okay.
The question, your second part of your question.
No,
was
that's
what
actually
the-
perfect.
what the
Ms. Green
effect
bought
of
you
that-
some time.
Yes.
So-
And I don't have the research on what's the effect of that and what they've seen. So we can certainly bring that information to you.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. We'll go to the audience. I'm going to call on Rose first. Rose, if you would, please give us your name and address.
Hi, if you can hear me, my name is Rose Isles.
Hang on just a minute. We're going to turn you up a little bit. Can we
Okay.
check volume?
You're a little quiet on the mic.
You might try just speaking a little louder, please.
Okay, my name is Rose Isles. I live on 4th Street. And I had a couple of questions and comments. Was there any, I mean, you kind of answered the question, but what was the real analysis in writing by the Planning and Zoning Commission or staff regarding the parking moratorium? Did they think it was a good idea to just do the total get out of jail free card?
Your question is what was planning staff's reaction or?
Yeah, their,
All right.
yes, what
Okay.
was their recommendation? Would the developers, if somebody comes in and develops an existing structure into something it's never been before, an entertainment venue, would they be held accountable in any way if there are problems? Again, it sounds like there aren't really any guardrails. I have a couple of examples. In my previous, before Wyandotte County life, I lived in a historical district in Kansas City, Missouri called Valentine. And a gentleman came in and developed the Uptown Theater. And he did not have enough parking when they had big concerts. So we had a lot of people parking on the street, double parking, parking illegally on the street. up and down the blocks in front of our homes, blocking our driveways, and I know you already addressed that. But unfortunately, it did cause a lot of problems for emergency vehicles getting through and the crime. We had people that knew there were going to be these big concerts. They'd come through and break every car window on the block and steal things, and there was gunfire. It was a really bad situation. He did have some parking, but it wasn't sufficient, and he charged for people to park in his lot. But of course, nobody wanted to pay that, so they parked on the street. So that's my one example, and I'll try and wrap this up. Now I live in a historic part of Kansas City, Kansas on Strawberry Hill, where many of the residents have no off-street parking at all. And so they have to park on the street. And like whenever St. John's Catholic Club has a football party, it blocks up and down the blocks, and the residents text me because I'm the president of the neighborhood association who has no control and say, there's no place for me to park and my mother's on a walker and yada yada. But there's a big building, thousands of square feet on 5th Street at the top of Barnett, that is a prime location for somebody to come in and turn it into whatever they want it to be, with hundreds of people coming to the neighborhood on a regular basis. If she decided to turn it into an entertainment venue, and she has not had a good history with the neighbors of being cooperative or concerned. So, the thought of giving her a business license to do stuff like that when she could be, totally uncooperative, and there's no clawback, that really worries me. So I am against this in the way you have presented it. I think several of the commissioners have said if there were some guardrails or something in the middle, I think that would be reasonable. I would hate to see some business come in, invest a lot of money fixing their place up and having events or doing whatever, and then have it all go to hell in a handbasket. So that's my comments. Thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go to Greg Kendall.
Hi, this is Greg Kendall. I'm president of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council. I work downtown at 7th in Minnesota and a resident here of KCK. And just wanted to weigh in that I was a part of that task force that participated in the conversation, and also throughout some of the examples of how our existing parking ordinances are challenging. I'll give you an example. The Boilermaker building at 8th, 9th, and State, sizable building, but based on today's codes, most of these projects are saying, look, you're going to have about 60 parking spots. There's not enough land on that site to do 60 parking spots. We can push them onto the street, but that's not the way our ordinance works right now. And so it is continuing to kill projects. And so this is one example, but we're trying to figure out, gosh, we keep walking into this wall of more regulation and more regulation. We're looking at all of this street parking that we do have now. Rose, for example, gave out a good example of what can go wrong. But the reality is, that's not where most of our problems have been. We have a lot of buildings that are empty right now that do not have enough parking, and those projects are coming in and saying, look, you've got millions of dollars of renovations along with the purchase price, and now you're telling me I've got to go find some parking lot that I got to buy and or knock down whatever building's on it to create enough parking to meet your ordinance, even though there's all kinds of parking in this area. And we'd like to see if this would help move the dial in driving development, particularly in these downtown areas, and see if that can't help us move the dial. It's just another expense. The other option for us is frankly to keep the ordinance the way we've got it and go back to the commission and ask them to increase the incentives that we can give a project to offset the cost of parking, because that's where we are. Something's got to give. We're doing the same thing over and over, having the same conversations and getting the same results. So I appreciate your all's consideration of this request.
All right, thank you. Sir, do you want to speak as well? I've got somebody in the chambers that's going to speak, and then we'll go back to online. Yes, sir, name and address.
Good evening. My name is Patrick Toohey. I'm the Director of Policy for the Better Cities Project. I have some printed testimony. well, I don't know what to do with it. I'll leave it there. But I'll be brief. If you had told me in high school that I would be excited to talk about parking mandates, I would have been horrified. But this actually,
I'm horrified to have to listen to it, so sometimes, but that's my job.
it is actually a national trend. And let me talk a little bit about how we got here. So building for cars, building for suburbs, we required all sorts of parking mandates. We wanted people to come and go from the cities. You could say it's been good for the places like Lee's Summit or Olathe, although it has driven up the cost in those places. You think of like the Home Depot that's surrounded by an ocean of asphalt and the buildings are so far apart from one another. It has been absolutely destructive to urban core cities, especially old urban core cities. And Kansas City, Kansas, if it took this on, would be the latest in a long line of cities like Buffalo, Tulsa isn't too old, but Seattle, San Francisco, that have simply said, we cannot grow. We cannot provide housing for the people in our community because of these rules. Department of Transportation has said that parking mandates add 10 to 15% of the cost. And so again, what we end up with are these downtowns, Kansas City next door where I have, where neighborhoods look like a smile with missing teeth because you've got these empty lots because you can't build because the parking mandates are choking off development. A lot of the problems that, a lot of the fears people have about this are, what if we have too much density? That would be a wonderful problem for Kansas City, Kansas to have. And what's nice about this proposal is that it is just a part of downtown, and it is limited to 3 years. And it gives the council and the commission time to look at what is going on, what is changing, and how do we want to tweak it. But this is absolutely what cities across the country are doing to address this need. There were some questions from commissioners that I have some answers for, if I may. You, sir, asked about other cities. Again, at Buffalo, Seattle, Tulsa, Des Moines tried this. From 2017 to 2022, Buffalo was able to build over 1,500 new housing units because they had freed up the space that was otherwise required for parking. When cities have experienced customer parking in neighborhoods, they have moved to neighborhood permits so that the police or anyone can tell who has authority to park in this neighborhood street and maybe who doesn't. That allows for it. People have put parking meters on the street, smart meters that have different rates for different times of day or maybe a hard 2-hour limit. That's not something I would encourage anybody to adopt with this, but that is something if 2 or 3 years down the road you're seeing problems, that's the way that other cities have dealt with that problem. But again, not all cities have had this problem. Really, it's just an opportunity to fill up all those parking spaces, fill up all that space in your cities. And I think that was it. I'm happy to answer any other questions. One of the commissioners asked about, aren't we asking businesses to self-regulate? Yes, businesses understand as part of their business, as part of their construction, they have an idea of how much parking they want to have. Nobody wants to build a price chopper on a street with no parking. That's not good business for them. The problem with parking mandates is that cities often require more parking than they need, which is why when you go to a shopping center, you always see maybe a third of the lots are filled. That's not because they are paving asphalt because they've got too much money. It's because the city they're in is requiring them to build 3 times as much parking as they need. So again, I understand the fear, but really for downtown urban cities, this is what has been going on across the country, and it's been widely successful. Thank you for your time. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Toohey. That was painless. And I appreciate your passion for parking. Lots of alliteration coming from me right at this moment. So thank you very much.
Sure.
All right. Okay, we'll go back to online to Dylan Delasante.
Hey there, Dylan Delasante here. I'm with Cities Work. I'm also very passionate about parking. Cities Work, we're committed to making it cheaper, faster, and simpler to open a small business. And what we've found is that parking minimums probably one of the most underappreciated barriers to small business entry that in the country that people have thought about. I think Alan already mentioned it costs several $1,000s to construct parking spaces. It can cost even more if you have to buy the adjoining lot, and it costs even more if you have to build a structure. I wanted to speak directly to this concern that if we get rid of the parking minimum, that all of a sudden all the parking spaces are going to disappear overnight. There's actually a study, Buffalo, they got rid of their parking minimums in 2016. They did it in all zones for all uses throughout the whole city. And there's a study that came out a couple years ago to look at how much parking was built by developers in that time afterwards. And what they found was that about 50% of developers still built the same amount of parking, and about 50% of developers built less parking. So there wasn't this huge, tremendous change overnight, but there is certainly enough change and flexibility that developers and small business owners could at least, sort of echo Patrick's sentiments. They could at least decide for themselves what was the appropriate amount of parking. And what many of them found was that they could build less than the minimum, or at least what the minimum used to be. So I'll go ahead and yield the rest of my time. Fayetteville, I also think is a great example. City of about a similar size, and a lot of small developers were able to take vacant lots, turn them into new things. One developer was able to take a vacant lot, make it into 9 apartments, 2 offices, a smoothie shop, and a tap room. So I think there's probably a lot of benefits that can be had from reconsidering parking minimums in KCK. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Okay, we'll now go to Jay. Online, it just says Jay.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, we can. Go ahead and give us your name, please, address.
All right, thank you. James Malloy, 3550 Rainbow Boulevard. I'll be brief. Just wanted to extend support for this. I do, however, want to bring up maybe an easy tweak to maybe address some of the concerns, especially ones that Ms. Iltz brought up. Perhaps in that you could maybe, in that ordinance and moratorium, you could perhaps carve out an exception to that for special uses. So, you'd still require anything that needs a special use permit to provide that parking, which would address things like event spaces or other larger uses like that. But overall, just want to support that. And thank you for your time.
All right, thank you. Anyone else like to speak to this in favor or opposition? Okay, seeing none, we'll go to staff. Staff, do you have any comment on this?
None at this time, sir.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff or any clarifications needed? And are you all you need a motion to move this on to the Board of Commissioners? Is that what we need to do next? Or
Yes.
not? All right, thank you. Any questions or clarifications needed from staff or anyone else? Commissioner Schwartz.
Is this the time where I can make a comment about something just before we pass them or put a motion up?
Sure.
Okay, just the one thing I will say is I know parking is a concern. I live downtown as well, and I go through these struggles, but I also am somebody who talks heavily with small business owners in the area that have wanted to move to KCK, and we go through so much red tape to try to get a lot of things done here. I think that this is a really nice way to eliminate some of those barriers. Because the one thing that people also complain about is our taxes. And in order for those to go down or to get some level of help, we need people and we need businesses that are going to bring in revenue. And it's so difficult to be able to afford to begin a new business here and also at the same time deal with all of the requirements that the UG can have, which they're not bad by any means. Very understandable, totally get them. But it can be so, so difficult to begin something small and meaningful to the community with the restrictions that we have in place. I just think it would be really nice as a small business owner myself to make it a little easier.
All right, thank you. I'm going to go back to you for just one moment, just to answer a question made by, I believe, Rose Iltz regarding reactions or recommendations from staff that were involved in the task force. Any type of feedback that staff provided you all?
Yes, this is Wendy with legal. Actually, the staff from the planning department, they were in favor of this, and again, they helped in the drafting of this. And what could we change within the sections 27 itself?
Okay, all right.
And able to be at this. And I did, if I may, I do have one clarification, and this is kind of going off of what James Malloy had said, but it was something I was going to bring up as well in response to what one of the commissioners had talked about with special events. All special events are going to need a special use permit. And if it did seem like parking was an issue, that could still be made a condition of a special use permit.
Okay.
So there would be ways to deal with that as well.
All right. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you for
you.
that clarification. Anything else needed for, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones?
Yes, so with that was a good point, and I have a question about that then. So beyond special use permits, is there any other instance that staff in particular or any of the presenters think that will just help ensure, because we're just trying to, my thought is strike the right balance on this. I liked what Commissioner Schwartz made as a comment, as well as some other people, but the real deal is striking the right balance. And so having assurances that the right balance can be struck, I think is just what the concern is. So special use permit, any other examples like that to where staff would be able to say, hey, this is either outside the norm or here's a recommendation, therefore we're going to incorporate this stipulation.
All right. Thank you. Anything else? If not, I will stand for a motion.
Sorry, Chairman Carson, I was actually looking for a response like from staff or somebody to say that could be addressed if something was recognized through a stipulation beyond the special use permit
My apologies. All right.
situation.
Can we get that
That's
staff
okay.
or from legal?
This is Wendy Green with the legal department again. Outside of a special use permit, we're still talking about the normal ordinances regarding parking. And again, that's something that we're trying not to heavily regulate with this moratorium. So I think that's still going to be on the businesses, again, trying to regulate themselves. So outside of a special use permit application, I don't believe that there would be a way for that to happen other than just the businesses regulating themselves.
All right. Stay put for just 1 second in case there's a follow-up. Commissioner Jones, anything?
Well, I just take that then, this is a leap of faith then. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Maybe I'd add that we do have an existing ordinance on the books around parking districts. So, neighborhoods can petition to create a parking district in their neighborhood. So that is a current tool that is available. And if there was an issue where that needed to be addressed and a neighborhood felt like there was too much outside sort of parking happening there, that is a possibility that exists today in our ordinance.
So there would be some safeguards and potential neighborhoods that are
Yeah.
struggling
You
with
set
for
up a
parking,
2-hour.
like one of the citizens brought up.
Yeah, a 2-hour parking, time limit or other sort of ways that you could manage that. You could set different hours for the parking. It really sort of varies depending on what the neighborhood was trying to address with that.
Okay, similar to what Mr. Tui said. All right, great. Thank you. Anything else? Commissioner Easterwood.
Yes, who was that was just speaking about the parking districts?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Alan Howes, Assistant County Administrator.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion when ready.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve the resolution for moratorium on parking requirements east of I-635.
All right, thank you. Motion made for approval of the resolution for moratorium on parking requirements east of I-635, made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second, Commissioner Jones? Thank you. It's moved and seconded for approval. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood.
Aye,
You said aye?
yes,
Okay. Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Bad news is.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. And this will go before the Unified Government Commission, correct? All right, thank you. And that, what is that date, Rose?
The 26th of June.
All right, that
7
meeting will
p.m.
be on June 26th at 7 p.m. Thank you. Thank you all.
Okay, our next item is an ordinance regarding the discretion of the planning director and certain planning matters. It is a ordinance to substitute the discretion of the county administrator or his or her designee for the discretion of the planning director and certain matters of Chapter 27 of the Unified Government Code of Ordinances.
All right, thank you. Who is going to present on this matter?
Well, I guess I will. Alan had to step out for a second. Rodney Lucas, Interim Assistant County Administrator. This is an ordinance regarding discretion of the planning director and certain planning matters that would be swapped out by the county administrator for his or her designee for the discretion of the planning director in certain matters in Chapter 27 of the Unified Government of Ordinances. And that ordinance is to substitute the discretion of the county administrator or his or her designee for the designation of the planning director in certain planning matters, Chapter 27, the Unified Government Code of Ordinance.
Okay, can you give us some further explanation on why this is being asked for and what capacities this would come into play?
Can you chime in, Mike?
Mr. Farley?
Mike Farley with the legal department. Unfortunately, I cannot. I was not involved in the creating of this ordinance. I can talk about procedural matters, but I have no other insight to offer on this.
Do we need to go back to the Assistant County Administrator?
Yes. Just 1 second, I'll go get him outside. He's meeting with Wendy.
All
One
right,
second.
or do we need to go ahead and move on to the next item and then come back to this?
Yes.
All right,
Okay, the next item is a ordinance eliminating the requirement that lower medium density residential areas comply with the narrow light design guidelines in the Northeast area. Is a ordinance amending the Northeast area master plan to eliminate the requirement that lower medium density residential areas comply with narrow light design guidelines within the Northeast area.
all right, thank you. And who's going to report on the rationale for this request?
Rodney Lucas, Interim Assistant County Administrator. I will cover this as well. It is an ordinance to amend the Northeast Area Master Plan of the Unified Government of Wyandotte County, Kansas City, Kansas, to eliminate the requirement that lower medium density residential areas comply with the narrow lot design guidelines in the area. And that is to promote infill development and investment by allowing additional units compared to the single-family district while preserving the overall character of the neighborhoods. And two, said original text under the heading lower median density residential on page 81 of the Northeast Master Plan to be the same is hereby repealed. The mayor, CEO, county administrator, and other employees of the agents of the unified government are authorized to take such action as they may be necessary or desirable to carry out and comply with the intent of the ordinance. The ordinance shall take effect in full force after its passage, approval, and publication.
Go ahead.
The goal of this was to amend narrow lot designs. Now, Mr. Farley, were you involved in this in the Northeast?
I am more familiar with this one, yes, Mr. Lucas.
Could you explain further for the commission?
Yes, the amendment here being made is to strike the sentence that is within the Northeast Area Master Plan right now that requires that the lower medium density residential land use district follow the narrow lot design guidelines regardless of the size or width of that parcel.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff on this one? Can somebody define what the northeast area is? What are the boundaries? Does anyone have that?
Byron Toy Planning Department. Basically, you have the Quinero ruins to the west, northwest, going south along 635, east towards Washington Boulevard, plus or minus a block, to the Missouri River, including Fairfax. The entire area is considered the northeast area.
Okay, all right, thank you. Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, it was my understanding that this issue arose because it was requiring narrow lot design guidelines for lots that may be 100 feet wide and not necessarily in need of meeting narrow lot design guidelines. And it was my understanding there was certain wording that was going to be changed, not necessarily the entire plan in reference to narrow lot design guidelines. Is there any information available showing how that wording is going to be changed in the plan?
Anyone?
Byron Toy Planning Department. The lower medium density residential designation, there's a word must use the narrow lot design guidelines. It's going from must to may use the narrow lot design guidelines. So that's the strike or the change, excuse me.
So that's the only change, correct?
That's correct.
Thank
you for that. Commissioner Jones?
My question is about, we got fairly late in the day today, significant opposition to this ordinance. I think her name is pronounced Kaylee McLaughlin. And it's 13 pages long, and she made a lot of good points. And she also talked about Elnora Jefferson, who I know is a significant community member with regard to the Northeast Master Plan and just all the goings on of the Northeast area. And so my question for Mr. Lucas or any other staff, I'm not sure if they've had a conversation, other kind of communication with her, but with what the points were that she made in her presentation, I would not feel comfortable proceeding with this if they have not addressed everything that she delineated pretty well in her presentation.
Any comments from staff on that? On the letter of opposition that was submitted?
I'm not aware of the opposition. I had not received anything. Byron, had you guys, Maury?
Byron Toy Planning Department. No, I have not received anything.
We all did.
So Rose maybe can speak to this, Chairman Carson, because I know the email that we got forwarded to us, I believe by Rose. It went to all the commissioners. I didn't take the time to look to see if any other staff were on it. But if they weren't on it, my thought is that this needs to be paused. They need to, again, have some communication with her and really look at what she laid out.
All right, thank you. Who sent the correspondence? Rose, did you send that out? Was that-
Yeah, I think like last week, there is someone who did the same, not last week, but for the last commission, there is someone who did the same thing. So I was like, okay, someone is requesting it to be sent to the commissioners. I will forward it to them so they can read it.
All right,
It's too late to put in the staff report.
all right, thank you. Other comments or questions on this? Commissioner Ernst?
I just wanted to say I did not receive a copy, but that's probably a personal problem in terms of getting email.
See, I got mine, let's see, 6 hours ago today. It was received at 1:30 this afternoon. And Commissioner Beth confirms he got his. Commissioner Ward, did everyone else online get theirs? Just nod your head. All right, I'm seeing lots of heads nodded, so they did go out. Commissioner Ernst, I'll see if you're on that list.
I think with Ernst, it bounced back for some reason,
All right.
even though.
So we got a bounce back from you, Commissioner Ernst, but it
Got it
appears everybody
before.
else did get that. And we'll work on that. Commissioner Jones, did you have a follow-up comment? And then I'll go to Commissioner Schwartz.
I do, with, especially with what Rose said, because whatever time it was today, I think afternoon, and she's right, we did get something. I think it was for the special meeting we had, where when we get these pieces of correspondence, particularly opposition, late, and a lot of us have day jobs and work, it does make it very challenging for the record. And my wonderment is, I'm not sure why people are waiting to the last minute to submit that. And I say that again in fairness and objectivity. While I commented that what Kaylee said in my mind was very significant, it was late in the day that we got that. Similar to what Rose mentioned as an example previously, and that's challenging to best.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Schwartz.
I was just gonna make a comment, just like what Commissioner Jones just said. I drive 300 miles a day. It's pretty hard when you get a 13-page document to be able to have any chance for reviewing it before a meeting. So I like the idea of tabling this as well, because I'd like to review it too.
All right, thank you. Anyone else have any questions before we go to public comment? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and open up public comment on this matter. Anyone would like to speak to this in favor or in opposition, please come forward. All right, we're going to go ahead and go to in person first. Yes, name and address, please.
Good evening. My name is Cal McLaughlin. I am in the 2nd District at 8th and Taromie. I want to apologize for setting this so late in the game. However, I was a UG employee up until last week, so it did take a little bit of time for me to not be an employee to submit this with as much research and effort that I put into it. I understand, and I am fully in belief that the cause towards this motive of removing the Northeast Area Master Plan from the requirements of the narrow lot design guidelines is in good faith. We need significant change. We need some policy revisions. However, this approach does not appropriately meet the needs of the community. If you scroll down, you'll notice that I have 7 different alternative pieces of things that need to be fixed within our policy to make the narrow lot design guidelines work. Simply axing the guidelines from our community does not adequately take away any kind of barrier that a real developer, for a local developer, would have regarding getting a new home built in Wyandotte County in that area. There are significant hurdles that have yet to be addressed. Furthermore, it does not fix the design guideline plans for anywhere else that they are in effect for our community. This includes Strawberry Hill, Argentine, Armourdale, Rosedale, some parts of Turner. There are significant things within these design guidelines that are beneficial that are not found anywhere else, including setbacks, ADU requirements, and some other just design guidelines that benefit the aesthetics of our community. Removing these guidelines is a little bit of like removing the gutters at a 6-year-old's bowling party. You need them for a reason, and there needs to be a little bit more thought and preparation if you're going to take them off. When you remove these design guidelines, we can open up the aesthetics in a way that does not benefit, but does gentrify the community at large, which is, you know, a little bit of a substantial gentrification, considering you have developers asking for 15 acres through the land bank. When you have such large developments and we don't put any kind of restrictions, though, or even kind of guidelines, those developments can be substantial. I know another developer that I didn't mention who is now sitting on an abundance of shipping containers because inventory is not moving now. And he would love nothing more than to take a 25-foot wide lot and drop a 2-story shipping container home on every single one on 15 lots back to back to back. You will have de facto developments like shipping container home developments and non-regulated design guidelines for things like manufactured housing that de facto make it look like a mobile home park. This is not what the Northeast area envisioned. This is not what they want for their community. This is not what they have stated time and time again. It's been reaffirmed in 2014 when it was, or 2008 developed, 2014 when it was reconfirmed, in the Northeast Area Master Plan when they added it in the Rosedale Area Master Plan where they've subsequently added it as well. And time again, it has been requested by Missouri residents of me to provide examples. Habitat for Humanity can build these. Village Initiative can build these. Do they need tweaking? Absolutely. I've been asking for that for 5 years now. Do they need amendments? Yes. Do they need repealed? No. This is something that needs much more thought and consideration, much more research and planning onto the impact of our community when it is such a large scale. I am in stark opposition to this repealing of these in the Northeast Area Master Plan because it does not accomplish what it sets out to accomplish, nor does it achieve anything that those residents, those constituents and neighbors deserve. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I'm going to go to, I'm sorry, Vert, did you want to speak? Okay, Mr. Murray, go ahead. And then we'll be going to online. Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I am Lavert Murray, a resident of the city of Kansas City, Kansas in Wyandotte County. I am here as a resident, not in any official capacity. Just wanted to make that clear.
Thank you.
I am here because I too learned about the letter that speaks to gentrification, and I know a little bit about why this came about. And it came about because we have a number of developers that have been trying to develop in the Northeast area on large lots, not narrow lots, on 100-foot wide lots, on 50-foot wide lots, not 20, 25-foot lots. And those developers have been stopped. Why? Because of the language in the Northeast Area Master Plan. I think legal pointed out that language says any development that meets the medium density zoning requirements within the Northeast Master Plan must, not may, must meet the narrow lot guidelines. And that covers a large area. I don't know why we don't have a map showing that area for the Northeast Master Plan, but it covers most of the Northeast. For example, there's a development to the west of Peregrine Falcon on the other side of 7th Street. It's a level field. There used to be homes there. There's no back alley, so there's no way you can meet the narrow lot guidelines without spending major dollars to build an alley, when all of the other houses on the block have garages facing the street. Mount Carmel, for example, that development has gotten restarted, and on the cul-de-sac in Mount Carmel, they were going to have to build and meet the narrow lot guidelines. Why? Because of the must in the Northeast Area Master Plan, which means they would have to build an alley around the cul-de-sac, and on a hill, it's virtually impossible. So by making a minor change, and that's what we're looking at here, a minor change, changing must to may, it allows development to occur in an orderly fashion so that these neighborhoods would continue to appear perhaps as they have in the past, but with larger lots and more appealing developments. What we're talking about here tonight, and I know it was mentioned that, well, this would have impacts on Rosedale, on Strawberry Hill. No, we're talking about changing a word in the Northeast Area Master Plan. And it's as simple as that, to stop the retarded growth and development and make things happen in the Northeast area. So, you know, I would suggest that perhaps when you, the Planning Commission, approve that plan, You didn't give focus, and I'm not being critical, to the fact that you had that must. So everything that occurs within a medium density residential zoning, it must meet the narrow lot guidelines. I would suggest maybe the commission, when it approved that master plan, they did not pay attention to that either. And so we're just hoping that that must be removed, replaced with a may, so that we'll have options.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Now we're going to go to Mr. Kendall, Greg Kendall.
Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Greg Kendall, President of the Wyandotte Economic Development Council, 727 Minnesota, and resident of KCK. We're not typically involved in all of these conversations, but in the last 12 months, we've been pulled into a lot of residential discussion because, frankly, they're frustrated. They cannot seem to get through all the regulation. And one of the things that keeps coming up is this narrow lot design requirement. So there's not enough flexibility in it. Mr. Murray mentioned options. What we're looking for is some additional flexibility in this. It's not that in every situation a narrow lot's going to be eliminated, but I think there is general consensus that the unified government requires this narrow lot, which then also requires the alleys in the back to be restored. Those alleys in most of these locations have not met codes in a long time. It is an incredibly expensive proposition to do narrow lot and require those alleys to be put back in there as well. And again, I'm not suggesting that in every single block that this is going to work, but where we are seeing larger developments, it's a significant impact on the pro forma. And what some of these developers are now asking is, hey, look, we're willing to build the cottage style home. We're willing to build whatever the home style is that is allowed. But we need some flexibility on this narrow lot component because it doesn't meet the market demands. And in some cases, it doesn't meet the market studies that they've done to say this is what people are willing to buy. Now, there are folks out there who will give you this sort of scare tactic that suddenly there's going to be no design guidelines. We have a lot of regulation. And so to think that folks can go out and build just anything they want to is erroneous. And it's fear mongering. And that's partly what's got us stopped now is that we have, in some ways, allowed some of these regulations to take control over our ability to redevelop these areas that we have plenty of interest, and they keep walking away because it is so expensive to build what our regulations on the books today require. And so, again, I'm not sure that I have the biggest dog in the fight on this side of it, except to tell you that when we start getting the level of calls that our organization gets to say, can you either incentivize this to reduce the cost, which there just aren't enough dollars to reduce the cost of the alleyways themselves, and to look at some of these plans and go, this does not make good sense. And so today what we're asking and we're supporting is this idea of could you give the community and the neighborhoods just a little more flexibility to look at what could be built in these communities, in these neighborhoods. We're not throwing all the design requirements out the door. This is just to give some additional flexibility. We would appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. I'm going to go to James Malloy.
Thank you, Chairman. James Malloy, 3550 Rainbow Boulevard. I'm not speaking necessarily in opposition to the idea of changing the master plan, but I guess if the fix is really as simple as changing a sentence in the master plan designation, why are we not changing it to reflect what a narrow lot is supposed to be or what the guidelines are supposed to, address? Narrow lots. If all the fixes in the world for this are just down to changing a sentence, why are we not changing it to exclude these large lots and only address these narrow lots? I also am interested in why, I'm interested in why it seems that there's such a rush now to ram these type of rule changes through. I don't know if you know this, but the UG has been given a grant from Mark to update its zoning code. The UG has paid its half and Mark has paid its half to update the zoning code. That is supposed to be happening. Why are we not wrapping this into a comprehensive zoning code update? And B, why has the zoning code update seemingly been tabled, if not outright killed by administration? I'd like those answers, or I'd like those questions to be addressed. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Sorry. Yep, well, I've got one more person online and we'll come back to you. Okay, I've got Elnora Jefferson. Ms. Jefferson, go ahead and there you go. Unmute yourself and give us your name and address, please.
Okay, thank you. Elnora Jefferson, Kansas City, Kansas is my place of residence. I'm calling in because I had received via a text an excerpt of what may have been Ms. McLaughlin's narrative regarding her opposition to the narrow lot design that exists now in the Northeast Area Master Plan. And I've heard some discussion that it may be paused. The purpose for my speaking is to say that, number one, if it is paused and if the commission and others who have the interest in actually looking at the letter and comparing it, if my name is mentioned, I certainly would like to be part of that overview. And I say that because what I received today is not quite factual, not factual at all, in fact. Number two is when I knew this was coming up, I had mentioned that I would be speaking and saying what I just said. I did check with a couple of people, reputable people, not reputable, that's probably the wrong word, people who are steeped in community in the Northeast, and there was no outright opposition to changing the wording from must to may as it relates to the requirement to follow the narrow lot design. If I had any input on their suggestion, it would be, and this is based upon the fact that over 550 people came and community people came and actually voted in favor of the Northeast Master Plan, that there be an opportunity to open this this change to the community, to the Northeast community, and hold a session, perhaps just a suggestion, up at the public library. And that is important because sometimes changes occur and the actual community and the people who voted and are directly impacted by the change don't hear about it. So that's what I have to say. And thank you very much for listening to my comments.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Palmer?
Neil Palmer, 2600 North 131st Street, Kansas City, Kansas. I will admit I do not know hardly anything about the Northeast area master plan or anything. Just as an observer here tonight, I have a couple comments. In answer to a statement that was made earlier by one of the commissioners about why the commissioners get last minute emails or other information, part of that is because the staff reports and packets for this meeting don't come out in time for us to adequately read, understand, and then reply to you. If they're coming out on noon Friday, we all have weekends, which gives us Monday to get something to you, to get it to you in time to look at. If I read your bylaws correctly, your bylaws say they are supposed to be to the commission and to the public 5 days before this body meets and discusses them. That's not happening now, and that's why you're getting these last minute things slid under the door for review and comment. Secondly, I echo what the lady before me just said. Take it to the community. It's their plan. It's their area plan. Go get the community input. Get everybody to go up there and look at what they're talking about. Here we sit and, the body in front of us, nobody's really sure what area we're talking about. We should be able to call up a map right out of online and go, this is the area we're talking about. It's nowhere here to be seen. And I echo the gentleman that was a couple before me. We're going through a comprehensive code ordinance update. Well, the master plan is really a different process than the code ordinance update. And in my experience with the ordinances they are, people aren't really paying a lot of attention to the word shall and must and may or should be. It gets mingled up pretty quick. So I would consider that this body might consider something when it comes to ordinances, which is related to policy. In my previous time on a school board, whenever we would change policy, we would have a first reading and a second reading. First reading, we knew there wasn't going to be action on it. It's to get it out there in front of people, get it in the minutes, get it disseminated so that people in the community would have time to then, you know, not get in a hurry, but articulate what's the pulse of what we're doing here. And based on that information or lack of any input thereof, we would then read it again and usually vote on it. That's a second reading. When it comes to ordinance changes, major things like this, I think it behooves this commission to take a two-step process, read it, understand it, take it to the neighborhood, come back, and then vote on it. That's my 2 cents from the bleachers. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. Any comments from staff based on comments from the audience?
Well, since management did not receive the information that was presented to the commission, that's an issue, and I can see the public's perspective. We're at the mercy of the commission on what you guys would like to do regarding 5.3 and as well as 5.2. Staff would consider bringing it back and having a discussion or whatever direction that the commission recommends.
All right, I'm going to go, I'm sorry. I don't know if I missed somebody online, but I'm going to go ahead and go to Mr. Greg Douglas. And that'll be our last speaker because I don't see any other hands up after Greg Douglas. So if you would please unmute yourself and give us your name and address. Greg Douglas.
My name's Greg Douglas. I'm at 4321 North 97th Street. And I was
Yes.
supposed to have a hearing today, and the lady that's representing me said she couldn't get her hand to raise when she tried to talk to y'all.
And what are you
Yeah.
asking, Mr. Douglas?
Is my property's by Tracy, and we were doing a rezone of the lots by our house.
We haven't got that far, Mr. Douglas. You haven't missed
Okay.
anything. We haven't even got to the consent agenda yet.
I'm very sorry. I've never done this before, so.
That's all right.
Okay,
you.
thank you.
Okay, Crystal Voth, are you speaking on the matter before us right now, which is about an ordinance in the Northeast area?
Nope, I'm sorry. That was me. I had to reload my Zoom earlier and I thought that I had missed my case. So
Nope, nobody's missed anything.
okay, good. I'm sorry about that.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, we got staff comment. Any questions for staff based on Mr. Lucas's response? All right, seeing no more questions, clarifications, I'm sorry, Commissioner Jones, go ahead.
Yes, I'm curious from staff's perspective, since they didn't receive that communication that we received. We were talking about the neighbors and those involved in the Northeast Area Master Plan having an opportunity to look into this more. I'm curious in terms of what staff thinks, how much time they think they would need to address some of those matters that I just mentioned, like reviewing the correspondence primarily too.
I'm sorry, Mr.
Chair,
Lucas,
may
go
we
ahead.
have a moment?
Sure. Sorry, staff is having a little conference here.
Okay, and Chairman Carson and fellow commissioners, the reason I asked that too, in part is because just seeing what their thought process is in terms of how much time they might need to review that. I was looking at a holdover, quite frankly.
Holdover, all right, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Vice Chair, to answer your question, we would probably need to the next meeting in July in order to assemble for a discussion. And if if you guys are requiring community input, then that would push it to August.
All right.
Thank you. That was my thought.
Any other questions for staff or any other clarifications needed? Commissioner Schwartz, and then we'll go to Commissioner Strauss.
Yeah, so I was just also wondering if we're going to go over these again, the communication, at least that I'm understanding from the new platform that we're using, that we're getting to explain 5.2 and 5.3 is very vague. It's in legalese. It doesn't seem to be quite as clear as the other ones. Is there any way when they come back that it could be presented a little bit more so we get more explanation on the rationale behind both?
All right, we'll make that request of staff. You want a little less legalese?
Yeah, like what they did for the first one with the parking ordinance. I mean, it was pretty clear. There was PowerPoint, there was lots of explanation, because I understand if we might have a better, I don't know, a better perception of that, but it's also possible the public who's trying to understand this with us may not have any idea what's being said.
Understand. Commissioner Strauss?
And I guess to piggyback on Commissioner Jones and everybody else, if we carry this over to July, if we do a public and it carries over to August, is there, because this does seem a bit rushed, is there something that we're up against that would bring some kind of community development into that area that we are trying to get ahead of, that would hinder? Because we all want to see the Northeast be revitalized like the rest of Wyandotte County. So we don't want to hinder as a body progress in the Northeast. We just want to make sure that we're doing right by the people of the Northeast. So if we carry it over to July, and then like you said, if it's a public situation where we have to have a public meeting to August, are we up against something that we aren't privy to because of what this is coming at us as of right now? And that may be not something we can talk about publicly, but I'm just curious as to how we can get this done. I think it's going to get done, especially with the comments that I've heard tonight, but I just want to make sure that we're not up against something that we may lose out on with some very positive development in the Northeast area.
All right, Mr. Lucas or staff, is there something you can comment on without commenting on it?
There's several developments that are pending in the Northeast. There's 75 units. There's potentially another 300 units of development coming into the Northeast. And there's been holdups with this narrow lot. Now, some of the discussion staff has had historically has been with Ms. Callie and with James, had been regarding offering options in a narrow lot design and allowing a developer to pick and choose. Then these ordinances were led outside of staff for these ordinances. So I'm sorry we didn't have a presenter for both of those, but we will self-correct moving forward.
All right, thank you. Any further questions or clarifications? If not, I need a motion. Mr. Jones, go ahead.
So let me just say this before I make the motion then. I'm glad Commissioner Strauss asked what he asked, because, you know, if time is of the essence, then my thought was initially 60 days, but I'm going to make the motion given the circumstances. And if we need to do something next month, we can do something. So I make a motion to hold over for 30 days this case, this presentation.
All right, motion made to hold over for 30 days. Ordinance eliminating the requirement that lower medium density residential areas comply with narrow lot design guidelines in the Northeast area be postponed for 30 days. Is that a second, Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any discussion on the motion for holdover for 30 days? Commissioner Easterwood, you have discussion, or were you trying to get the second?
I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, they said even if we held it over for 30 days, it would still take 60 days if public comment was going to
My
be for?
assumption would be if we get to next month's meeting and we're not in a place we can move forward, we can go for another 30 days, correct, staff? If needed?
I'm not wanting to go another 30 days.
No, I'm saying if for some reason we were not prepared, we would be able to. Is that correct? Yes, that is
Yes.
correct. I'm hearing from staff.
But is it also possible to have everything concluded within 30 days? Or in the next 30 days?
That is the directive being given to staff, so I think they're going to work on that. Is that correct?
Yes.
All right.
So in the next 30 days, we could make a motion and vote on this and have everything settled at the next meeting.
That's very possible.
Okay.
All right. Any further discussion or questions? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
No,
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 8-1.
All right, thank you all. We'll hear this next month. We'll go back now to ordinance, number 5.2 on our agenda, ordinance regarding the discretion of the planning director in certain planning matters. And is the deputy county administrator going to present on this now? Is he prepared?
No, he wasn't the originator of this ordinance. I will have to ask that we have a holdover and bring it back with better presentation.
All right, is that for 30, you're requesting a 30-day holdover? Do you need a longer period of time?
30 days.
All right, so the request from staff is for a 30-day holdover on the item 5.2 on our agenda. Is there any questions? Commissioner Jones? All right, I am going to ask if there's any
I'm ready
public
for a
comment.
motion, so.
Before we do that, I'm going to ask for any public comment on this. I do have a hand up. Commissioner, I'm sorry. James Malloy.
Well, thank you for the promotion, Chairman. Again, James Malloy, 3550 Rainbow Boulevard. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak, despite that this is probably getting held over. But just want to make a couple points about this. This ordinance, as it's written, essentially seems to remove any discretion from the planning director and staff. Fact of the matter is, a zoning ordinance is written, built, and interpreted daily by trained planning staff who, like any other professional, we've studied and practiced within this field. We're familiar with the concepts, the terminology, the law, design, and other applicable fields. This ordinance, pretty much removes the professional opinion of your professional staff from the table in favor of, the opinions of maybe untrained professionals like, certain administrators. We don't let the CAO or administrator's office interpret the building code, the fire code, public works, penal, etc. Why does the administrator's office feel that it's necessary that they have to have the power for this code to interpret it solely? I realize that it reads, administrator or their designee, but I think as we've seen in practice, it's been kept with the administrator's office. And I think frankly, tonight's probably a good example of why turning that power over to the administrator's office is not a good idea. We've had two ordinances now, or two resolutions that came before you tonight that a sitting ACA could not even explain what it was or give a rundown of it. If they can't explain their own ordinance they are writing, what makes you think that they are going to be able to accurately interpret the zoning code, accurately decide what procedure needs to be followed when? In addition to that, it also prevents your planning staff from being able to discuss and get an interpretation of the code directly to someone who's asking about it. I worked in that department 4 years. At least once a week, we had the question of, does X code apply here? Rather than being able to discuss that again as trained planning professionals, we now have to outsource that up to the administrator's office, who either may not understand the context, or frankly, may be better, or may be busy with other matters and cannot give that opinion quite instantly. And again, I'm asking, both as a former employee and still a resident of this county, why is this deemed necessary? Because again, the administrator does not interpret the fire code, building code, XYZ. Why is that? Why is that suddenly a need for planning? And if someone could maybe answer that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
All right, thank you. We're going to now go to Rose Iltz. Ms. Iltz?
Hi, this is Rose Iltz. I live on 4th Street in KCK.
Speak as loud as you can, Ms. Iltz, because we really are struggling to hear you.
Okay, let me see if I can turn it up. Is that any better?
Not really.
Sorry. So basically, I wanted to say a lot of the same things that James just said. It feels like a power grab. County administrator and designees probably aren't going to have the appropriate credentials to manage that department or the job. And they aren't going to have the knowledge base. There'll be no checks and balances. If they're trying to model what our current federal government is trying to do, that doesn't make me warm and fuzzy. I would sure like to see the planning department fully staffed and given the, let them do their job.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we're going to go to Chris. It just says Chris. Online, we have a speaker by the name of Chris who has their hand up.
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Go ahead, please.
Okay.
Give us your name and address.
Jesse Villarreal, live on North 67th Street in Kansas City, Kansas. I'm going to be real brief. I have to acknowledge that I think the comments here about trained planning professionals is very rich, coming from a department who made multiple quote unquote administrative decisions at their own discretion over the last 3 years that I've lived in this county. So I think that, quite honestly, anything is a step up from the department that I don't think we need to say the names of ran, and some people are on the call that we're a part of, that allowed for lot lines to be moved, special use to be done, rezoning that should have gone in front of the commission. And I can speak to all of this through actual core requests being pulled and seeing these people in writing making these decisions without taking them through the proper channels, to the point where they even said, and I quote, "There are people that are pulling Cora requests. We need to handle this the right way so it won't go in front of the commission." So my statement is just this: anything is better, and I would rather have someone like the administrator entrust someone at their discretion than have the power lay on the shoulders of one individual and maybe his sidekick to make their own decisions that they don't even know the ordinances to support them. So that's just my 2 cents.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? All right, we'll close the public. I'm sorry, you're right. Excuse me, Ms. McLaughlin. Anyone else in the chambers want to speak? If you would, Mr. Palmer. Okay, you want to come on up so I won't forget you. I don't know how that would be possible, but I don't know. Yes, go ahead, please. Once again, name.
Good evening, Callie McLaughlin, Ethan Taromi, KCK. I just want to echo some of the sentiments already mentioned by both James and Rose previously, and empathize with Ms. Villarreal's concerns as well. I guess some of my concerns for me is not only do we have a qualified person, but what's the bandwidth of what they're able to handle right now? We still have bridges that are not open. We have pilots that are not, not hashed out. We have property tax issues. We've got a lot on their plates already. Why are we adding more to it in an area that's not their expertise? They have enough. Do they not have enough to do? There's tons to do around here. This is not going to make an advertisement for a new planning director very easy to come in. Are they going to want to come in knowing that none of their decisions will have weight, even if it's a new director, new policies, new procedures, knowing that they're not going to have any weight in their decisions and that everything can just be overridden by a county administrator's pen is kind of not conducive to attracting new talent into our community that could maybe make some real changes. So I would say I would think that this is probably not going to be a great move if we're going to attract a new planning director. We've not had to do this in over 75 years. We've gone through urban renewal, 93 flood, COVID, furloughs, economic crises and collapses. Never had to do this before. But like James said, the timing is really suspiciously convenient or inconvenient, particularly as we've had staff changes and we have proposed contract renewals. I think it's a really kind of inappropriate time to evaluate this until we get a new planning director, until we have that process that's gone through. I mean, there's a lot of other things that are a priority for our administration that we don't need to stretch them thin for. Maybe a temporary measure, sure. When I was floodplain administrator, I had to have a county administrator sign off on a few things that required federal approval. But if I were to ask one of them right now what a FAR is, I don't think any of them would know. Anybody know what a CFM is? Anybody? Can anybody tell me what the minimum required parking spaces for 1,000 square foot of building area is? No idea. The minimum requirements for a planning director is 10 years of specific planning experience, not just county administration, not just public administration, specific to planning, AICP certification, years of direct experience with zoning code updates, its effects, state regulations, Board of Zoning Appeals, quasi-judicial boards, state and federal requirements that we are beholden to in that department. And just to turn it over to someone as a measure without any real consideration of how that power of the planning department director could overlap with the county administrator's decision could be really impactful. We saw what happened to commissioners when the county administrator made a parking arrangement for the city hall lofts. Do you remember that? That was just a administrative write-off because the county administrator could. What about the building permit waivers that Kansas City, Kansas Community College received? That was an administrative decision. How many of these do we want to just layer on top of each other and give that much power over to someone without any checks or balances or any other discretion? There needs to be a little bit more of a guardrail here and a little bit more split of duties, if you may. I'm opposed to this until we have a little bit further research, until we have more reasoning as to why, and until we can really understand the impacts of these overlapping responsibilities that having county administration could have and how it would affect our future hiring and future planning director that we would assumingly hire in our community. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Palmer.
Thank you again. Neil Palmer, Kansas City, Kansas. I won't reiterate notes that I already made that already been spoken so well by others about experience and what have you. I'll take a little different track here. I'm going to go back to that a massive, or shouldn't say massive, a long overdue overhaul of code is in process. We should let that take its course. Muni code, of which most of this is developed from, is shared by a lot of municipalities across the country. They're written fairly generically, but pretty much to cover what most municipalities of this size and larger deal with and why. And to now come into something that's tried and true that we've had for a long time as a boilerplate to remove the buffer between the citizens and the developers and the citizens and the ordinances, to put it in a quasi-political spectrum of county administrator that's appointed by, the mayor and the board of commissioners, I mean, you just will wrap up this commission and let the Board of Commissioners be the planning commission. I mean, that's where you're going. At the last Board of Commission meeting, they spent more time talking about pigeons and chickens than you all did. And I sat through that whole dissertation one more time. I can't believe that a county administrator with all of the other pressing needs in this county and city should even consider taking this on as an additional responsibility. So I think this should be, part and process to the overall code update. And, let's not have a knee-jerk reaction to whatever's going on. Nobody can stand here today and go, who initiated this? Why do we have to have it? What are we trying to fix because something else went wrong? I can tell you that based on recent events, I recently made an inquiry through the open records platform. Mr. Farley's well aware of it. Okay, if the planning director or his designee makes a decision in any one of these, this was a reference to the size of a master plan amendment, show me where that is in writing. It does not exist. And so if we're going to do this, in addition to making the designee do it, it needs to be recorded. It needs to be part of the staff report. It needs to be issued before we have a neighborhood meeting. It has to include the rationale of how that person made that decision, because in the last case, criteria that any reasonable person would have used to make a determination was apparently ignored, and nothing was ever done about it. So there's more to this than just saying who, it's how does it get shared and how does it become public record? That's my 2 cents on that matter today. So I appreciate the staff wanting to do the carryover, but I think there's a lot more homework to do on this one in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we will now go ahead, and I've already heard from staff that they're requesting a 30-day holdover. Any questions for staff on that request? Okay, seeing none, I'll stand for a motion. Commissioner Ernst.
Move to hold this over for 30 days.
Okay, motion to hold over. This would be report 5.2 on the agenda, ordinance regarding the discretion of the planning director in certain planning matters. It's been made to hold over for 30 days by Commissioner Ernst. Is that a second, Commissioner Jones? Just nod your head. You're muted, Commissioner Jones.
All right. Can we perhaps, and this would be at the discretion of Commissioner Ernst who made the motion, but I think some good points have been made in terms of, can we ask that as a part of it being held over, that when they come back, they tell us why they're why they're requesting what they're requesting.
I think we can just certainly give them those instructions without adding it to the motion. The motion is to hold over for 30 days to get more information and justification for the request being made. And if not, they'll get another holdover. So I think it's up to them to put their case. It's up to them to put their case together. So would that be a second, Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. So
Okay.
now we can move on with our agenda. So I want to thank you all for your patience, including those of us who have been up here. So thank you, everyone. So let's move on and let's get to the consent agenda. Rose, would you go ahead, please?
Yes. So the Planning Commission is a voluntary body of citizens which will review each zoning proposal for all change of zones, special use permits, vacations, and preliminary plan reviews on tonight's agenda. The Planning Commission makes recommendations to the Unified Board of Commissioners, who will then make the final decisions on Thursday, June 26, 2025. For final plats and final plan reviews heard tonight, the Planning Commission's decision is final, and there will be not be another hearing. The format of this evening's meeting is as follows. The applicant will make an opening statement explaining the proposal. Please note that the applicant will be given 15 minutes to present their case. The 15 minutes includes the applicant, consultants, and other members of the applicant's team. The members of the Planning Commission will then address any questions that they have to the applicant. Any persons wishing to speak in favor will be allowed to do so at that time. Then those in opposition will be called upon and allowed to make their statements and ask questions. Please note that each member of the public who wishes to speak will be given 5 minutes to express their opinions. Time may not be shared between speakers. A speaker may request to extend their time, and the Planning Commission may by 2/3 majority vote extend a speaker's time in 5-minute increments. The chairman will ask for a show of hands of those persons in support and those in opposition who do not wish to speak. The applicant will then answer questions and make a closing statement. The public hearing portion of the meeting will be closed, and the public will only be allowed to address the commission if a question is directed towards them. The Planning Commission will discuss the application and make their recommendation. If persons in opposition want to formally protest a change of zone or special use permit, a means is available by legal protest petition, which can be obtained along with the necessary instructions by emailing the Planning and Urban Design Department at planninginfo@wicokck.org tomorrow morning. Any application receiving a unanimous vote of recommendation by the Planning Commission will appear on the consent agenda of the Unified Board of Commissioners unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the commission, or other interested parties. The Planning Commission's recommendations will be adopted. The consent agenda is heard at the beginning of the meeting at 7 p.m. The Planning Commission will also have a consent agenda as part of their meeting this evening. The consent agenda is the first part of the agenda. Items on the consent agenda are final plats, final plans, special use permit renewals that have received a staff recommendation to approved. Unless there is a request to remove an item from the consent agenda by the applicant, a member of the staff, a member of the Planning Commission, or other interested parties, the staff recommendation on all the items of the consent agenda will be adopted by the Planning Commission at one time. I'll read a list of agenda items on the consent agenda, and when I have completed the list, the chairman will ask if there's any request to remove any items. This is your time to raise your hand, be recognized, and request that the item be removed from the consent agenda if you do not agree with the staff's recommendation. If you are in the commission chamber, please come to the microphone, state your name and address, and the item that you want to remove from the consent agenda. The Planning Commission is required to disclose contacts about any item on the Planning Commission agenda. Before each item, I will ask if any contacts have been made, and members of the commission will be asked to disclose those contacts. Please note that your opinions will be afforded to the governing body for their consideration and making the final decision on Thursday, June 26, 2025 at 7 p.m. I will now read the items on the consent agenda. Consideration of the May 12th and May 28th, 2025 Planning Commission minutes. SP 2025-029, Jessica Moreno, is a renewal of a special use permit for a short-term rental at 611 Douglas Avenue. And Plat 2025-021, Will Anderson, a final plat for one lot for Rock Island Bridge at 0 Kansas Avenue. The items I just read are on the consent agenda. At this time, does any member of the commission wish to disclose any contact on any of the items?
No.
Please include the following items as record for the item or for all of the items on the consent agenda. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map act for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, a staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, an application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo for the special use permits, and the notices to the property owners. The commission will approve in one vote to these items unless someone requests that an item be removed from the consent agenda.
All right, thank you. Does anyone on the commission need to have anything removed from the consent agenda this time? All right, not seeing anyone in the audience need to have anything removed from the consent agenda. Okay, seeing no one, I will entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as presented. Mr. Jones?
Motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
All right, motion to approve the consent agenda as presented made by Commissioner Jones. Is that a second, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. The special use permit will move on to the Board of Commissioners on June 26th at 7 p.m. Thank you all for your patience. Mr. Anderson, this is the one time you were at the front of the agenda, and even then, we found a way to make you sit for 2.5 hours. So I apologize to you, but thank you.
Okay, the first item on the non-consent agenda is COZ 2025-009. Michael Heitman is a change of zone from R1 single family and R2 two family to RP1 planned single family district for an event venue, short-term rental, Sour Castle at 935 Shawnee Road, 945 Shawnee Road, and 911 Shawnee Road, in conjunction with MPL 2025-006, a master plan amendment from low density residential to low density mixed use within the Rosedale area plan for event venue and short-term rental. Also, SP 2025-031, a special use permit for a wedding and event venue with lodging, live entertainment, short-term rental, and alcohol and excess of food sales at Sour Castle. And plat 2025-011, preliminary final plat for Sour Castle for one lot. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the city's official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan for the area in question, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notices in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone on the commission have any contacts to disclose on this application? Okay.
No.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Go ahead, please. Give us your name and address.
My name is Ben Bigham, Polsnelli Law Firm, attorney for the applicant. I'm located at 900 West 48th Place in Kansas City, Missouri. Introducing our team, we have Mike Heitman right here, who is of Sour Castle, the applicant. And then we have Angie.
I need you to talk in the microphone.
Angie Gabler, Strata Architecture and Design. She's the lead on, all the design, site plan work and everything going into this. So appreciate staff, the commission's time. Exciting project, obviously, for the county, we hope. And just to walk through kind of the request generally, we're talking about 3 different parcels, 911, 935, and 945 Shawnee Road. This is to, amongst the different things happening, this is to renovate the existing Sour Castle, modify the zoning to 2 of the parcels already the existing zoning we're requesting, which is to bring it to an R1 residential zoning. And the third thing is to get an SUP approved for the, operation of an event space and a short-term rental. I don't think we'll need to take all 15 minutes here to walk through our presentation.
That'll make you very popular.
Yeah. Reviewing the staff report, really just had 2 comments or concerns. We've already worked them through with staff a little bit too. The first comment we have is regarding the existing code violations that were flagged in the report. Just to make it clear, those were existent before my client acquired the property. He acquired it in 2023. So, throughout this process, we'll be resolving any code violations that are applicable that need to be, resolved for purposes of the redevelopment, but just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that it wasn't, in the time of ownership that those were occurring. The second issue, or no, point of discussion is condition number 29 regarding the SUP's term. Given the, the scale of investment going on here, we've talked with staff just saying that 2-year term seemed a little bit short for what was going on. And we want to make sure that moving forward, the event space and short-term rental could operate as long as possible, within the confines of the applicable code sections. And so what we came to find out is that the best way to go about this would be to bifurcate the SUP approval. So for the short-term rentals, my understanding is for the first approval, a maximum of a 2-year term can be granted. The second approval will be for 5 years, and then third and subsequent approvals after that would be for 10 years going forward. So for the short-term rental piece, it'll be a 2-year approval, and condition 29 will now relate just to the short-term rental piece of that, term length. As far as the event space, we've talked with staff and we're going to create a new condition number 32, which would be for a 7-year term. And then, so, the first term that's approved for the short-term rental will be for 2 years. The second term would be for that 5 years. And after the full 7 years passes on both the event space, special use permit, and then those 2 approvals on the short-term rental, they would, merge back together into one SUP. So, as far as for my comments, and you can say on the site plan. As far as my comments, I'm going to turn it over to Angie to just kind of talk to the site plan, just other things discussed within the staff report, but that's all I had from my end. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Yes, ma'am. And if you would, please go ahead and give us your name for the record.
Yes, absolutely. I'm Angie Gabler. I'm the president and owner of Strata Architecture. I live at 3681 West 127th Place in Leawood, Kansas. I'm here today just real quick to run through kind of the site plan that you see in front of you. The area shown in green are the 3 lots that Mr. Bigham was talking about here just a little bit ago. We're, with this proposal, combining the 3 lots into a single lot, so that's part of the replat. 2 of the lots currently are zoned R1. The one that's showing the parking in the upper right corner is zoned in R2. In the center of the diagram, you'll see the gray. That is Sauer Castle. That's the main building. It's up here on the wall behind you all. And then to the left of that is the caretaker house. That's the one that they're talking about doing for the overnight rental. And then we have a parking lot on the left side, on the west side. We just kind of split the parking lot between the west and east side. So the west side is parking that's pretty well concealed with the shrubbery over there. And then a new maintenance building being built along the west property line. We've then got the east parking lot that is kind of a triangular shape. And then we're providing ADA parking in both of those lots for both of the centers. In between the caretaker's castle, or in between the caretaker's house and the castle, you'll see a outdoor venue space. That's just a pad area for setting up for outdoor events like weddings or family reunions, anything like that. So it's just a hardscaped space in between. And then to the south of the castle, you'll see a lawn area for event space. That's just going to be a flattened area where they could set up an event tent. So if you're having an event at the castle, like a cocktail hour before a wedding, then you're holding a wedding, and then a larger space where everyone can congregate in one area, that would be at the tent location. So that's not a permanent structure. There are no new permanent structures going on this property except for the new maintenance building. The area to the south of the castle will be, we tore down an addition that was built in the 1920s, and a new addition's going back in similar footprint. We can go to the next slide if you'd like. So this is kind of what the castle looked like before when Mike bought the property. So this is the east side, and on the left, you'll see the addition that was falling in that we tore down. The porch that was there was in very, very bad condition. We've taken it down and we're rebuilding that. This was previously approved through the Historic Preservation Commission. We've got a C of A for doing the exterior work already. On the right-hand side, you can see the new addition that's proposed for the back that really contains things like new restrooms, a lift for ADA accessibility, and a warming kitchen for caterers. So we tried to keep a lot of those modern conveniences in that back structure. Next slide. Again, this is just a better photograph of the back of the property of the addition we tore off, and then a photo on the right of, or rendering on the right of the proposed new addition. Next photo, first slide. Front of the building, just another rendering. We're showing on the right-hand side, there were two porches that were missing. The northwest and the southwest porches were both missing. They're both being reconstructed right now as part of that current building permit. Next slide. And then some pictures from before. It still very much looks like this. And we're getting ready to get started on the inside. That building permit is in process. So you can see some pictures of the first and second floors and the conditions generally, a lot of water infiltration. Next slide. And that's it. So I'm open for any questions, and I know that Mike would be happy to answer some questions for you as well.
All right, great. Thank you very much. Any questions from the commission? I think we're all just excited to see something happen on the property after so many years of talking about it. So it's nice to see some action out there. Any questions from the commission? Seeing none, any comments? We'll go to the audience. Anyone in the audience have any comments to make? Yes, Mr. Palmer. I'm sorry, Mr. Palmer, right? Yeah, yeah. You look familiar. You have 2 cents for me?
No, I'm going to bring 2 bits for you this time. Neil Palmer, Kansas
Thank
City,
you.
Kansas. I'm 100% for this development without question. As a person that also has a short-term rental, I would ask that you double check, as my recollection is, and I was trying to reread the ordinance. I think the special use permit goes 1 year, then a renewal, then 2 years, then a renewal, then 5 years. And while I fully support what we're doing, I think we ought to all play on the same playing field when it comes to short-term rentals. That's my only comment.
All right, thank you very much. Anyone else? I've got Lisa Walker. Lisa Walker.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Although this is not in the district that I live in, I am familiar with Strata. I am very happy that we are restoring our history. This castle is obviously been vacant for many years, and it's always been it became almost an eyesore and a cry to Wyandotte Countyans that lived around it. But also to me as a little girl, I always thought that that was the most beautiful building, and to see it being restored is almost the best thing the Wyandotte County has done. We forget about our history. We do not encourage landmarks. I am over a historic neighborhood. I am the vice president of Parkwood. I'm also an owner of down in 19th in the Vine Jazz District property. So when I see preservation of historic buildings, and I know that she has a long way to go, but I thank you, ma'am. I thank whoever's doing this, and I hope it's going to be open to the public, and we'll have many of young people that'll be able to go in and visualize and see the structure and see all the edifices of how everything was put together from back in the day. So I really thank you. And
All right, thank you. And just if you could, please give me your name and address, please, for the record.
Lisa Walker Yeager. I am First District Commissioner, candidate for First District Commissioner.
Thank you for that clarification. All right, thank you very much. Mr. Daniel Serta.
Hello, Daniel Serta, 1816 South Mill Terrace, Kansas City, Kansas. I've lived in Shawnee Heights for nearly 25 years now. I've lived at the house that I reside in now for over a decade, which puts me about 250 feet away from the castle. I live on South Mill Terrace, immediately to the east, about 2/3 of the way down the block from Sauer Castle. I can actually see it from my bedroom windows during the winter when the leaves have dropped their leaves. I've known about Sauer Castle since I was a child, like most people, and I've watched this process. I've been involved as a board member of Rosedale Development Association in advocacy and in trying to find a path. And what Mr. Heitman has done is, of course, commendable. And the neighborhood is really elated. I was able to attend both neighborhood meetings that he held. The one last fall, this one is he most recently held as part of this process. All of that being said, I do want to mention a couple of concerns that the neighborhood has voiced and that I share. And that really has to do not so much with traffic per se, but with Shawnee Road itself. And this really has more to do with the public responsibility of the unified government than it does in many respects with Mr. Heitman's responsibility. Shawnee Road is a nearly 200-year-old pathway that was actually originally laid out by the Shawnee tribe. A lot of people don't know that. It came from the Kansas River as a footpath that eventually trailed off into two pathways. One we better know as Shawnee Drive. The other one was the road to the Shawnee Mission, which is called Mission Road. And that path that people follow these days is that same path that was laid out 200 years ago for foot traffic. And they drive it at 40, 45 miles an hour. And at the intersection of Boquet, which is where that kink in the north side of that site plan appears, there is a significant narrowing of the roadway there. There were suggestions made at the community meeting about potentially changing the alignment of the road and or putting some sort of traffic calming there. I don't know what the right technical solution is, but that has always been an issue. Like many others, particularly somebody who lives literally around the corner, I can't tell you how often there are issues with oncoming traffic, just driving too fast on a road that's very long, very isolated, and that has no stop signs from Douglas to the other end at Cambridge Circle, nearly 2 miles away. So that is an issue that I hope the commission, the planning commission will take on eventually, and the Unified Government Commission itself, because that seriously needs to be looked at. It needs to be taken under serious consideration. I'm not terribly concerned about the volume of traffic that's going to come to and from events, but I have been concerned over the years about people gawking and parking illegally on the sidewalk where there are 7 signs that say there's no parking allowed. I do worry that when there are events and there is some significant traffic, there are going to be people having to contend with the same issues that I contend with as someone who happens to live nearby. So all of that being said, I do think there's some issues here that will need attention. I have confidence in having read the application and in my conversations with Mr. Heitman that he will address those at his end as a property owner. But as I said, I like nothing more than to see the unified government take those issues seriously and look at providing the investments of resources and attention that Shawnee Road deserves. Because I could tell you the road hasn't been repaved, potholes do occasionally get fixed, but the alignment I'm sure hasn't been touched in decades. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Stewart, and it's great to hear from you.
Same here.
Anyone else want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition? Yes, sir. Your name and address, please, and again, thank you for your patience tonight.
Hello, my name is James Bailey. I live at 910 Shawnee Road. It's right across the street from the castle. And I want to thank Mike for doing all the restoration work and everything. I'm totally opposed to the entertainment and the live venue and everything. Sound travels pretty well up there on the hill, and we talked about the hours operations and everything during the neighborhood meetings, and it'd be about 10 o'clock at night or whatever. But I think that's a little too late to be in that neighborhood around with all the neighbors and all the, you got the neighborhoods on the backside and everything, and all the sounds just gonna travel up and down that valley. And I don't think it's a good idea. I don't know if there's a way we could limit the decibel levels or something.
We're going to get you some answers. We're going to talk about that. So
Okay.
since you raised it, of course.
And then the alcohol, because that street's so narrow and there's no curbs, and after everybody leaves the venue and everything, I'm just afraid that there's gonna be a lot of wrecks and everything up there.
Okay, we'll discuss that as well.
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Anyone else? Okay, with seeing none, we'll go ahead and close the public portion of the meeting. Can I get one of the applicants to come forward? And let's talk about, let's go ahead and talk about the, well, I guess let's go ahead and start talking about noise and hours of operation. Because I'll probably call your attorney up to talk about the length of time for the permits.
Okay, my name is Mike Heitman. I live at 3715 Shawnee Mission Parkway in Fairway, Kansas. Regarding the noise, I'm not an expert on decibel levels, but the way we have placed things on the site, we are trying our best to minimize the transmission of noise throughout the neighborhood. The last thing I want to do is upset the neighbors or create a nuisance or a disturbance in the neighborhood. So I think we've designed it to minimize that. I'm certainly willing to listen to decibel levels, or, we've limited the hours. And
What are the hours of operation going to be for the event space?
I think we have in the application 11 p.m. Yeah, on weekends. Yeah.
To terminate at 11 p.m.?
Yes.
Okay. And I'm sorry, it's there. I'm just,
Yes.
rather than
No
thumbing
problem.
through all these papers.
No problem.
And that'll be, so there'll be outdoor events and indoor events, correct? Or will there be any inside events inside the castle itself?
Yeah, but the castle's small room size, the room small, it's really obviously wasn't designed for that. And it's also a delicate structure, so we don't want, to be overloaded or anything like that. So, but yeah, we could have a corporate meeting or a little tea,
Smaller events inside
Right.
and then your larger events.
field trips, things
Do
like
you
that.
have a capacity for your outdoor events?
108,
Once you come up, you can go ahead and share the mic if you want, but go ahead and give your name.
185 people.
185, okay. When typically will, hours of operations terminate at 11, I guess they could start during the day, would they start early, afternoons?
We haven't,
I guess if it was a wedding, it might be in the afternoon.
yes, could certainly start during the day. In terms of what time in the morning they would start, we haven't really thought about that, but that could certainly be limited. if
What
that-
about with regard to security or anything like that and going back to one of the neighbors' concerns regarding alcohol? I'm assuming you're going to allow alcohol at the events, so I'm assuming there would have to be security.
Correct. We'll make sure that obviously that we have security that doesn't allow any disturbances or people that have had too much to drink or anything like that to get out of control. We committed to the neighborhood to have a single phone number that they can call, around the clock if there's ever an issue. It will always go to the person that's can take quick decision or quick action to turn the music down or whatever the issue may be.
Will there be security on site, any type of video surveillance or anything like that?
Yes, we'll have a complete security camera system around the property.
Do the security cameras measure decibel levels of noise? Or would you be opposed to something like that?
No, I wouldn't. I don't know if they make such a thing, but I'm sure
They may
there's,
not operate in conjunction with one another,
Yeah,
but they do, they make them.
exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything else you wanted to add? Let's see, noise, alcohol. As far as the road, I'm sure you've had conversations with the neighbors regarding the roads. We'll get to staff with regard to traffic studies and that type of thing. Anything else you wanted to add?
no, like I said at the beginning, my first goal was to save the castle, and we've done that. And my goal now is to set the castle up to be sustainable. And it's going to be, we're setting up a nonprofit, and we want to set up a system where it's going to be able to generate a little bit of revenue to cover the overhead. But the majority of the events are going to be donated. They're going to be community events. They're going to be fundraisers and items like that. So that's the goal of the castle, is to set this up for generations and to be able to sustain itself, unlike it's been able to for the last 150 years. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. So.
All right, thank you. And again, I appreciate all the work that you've done. And I'm sorry, what's your name again, sir?
Ben Bigham.
Mr. Bigham?
Yep.
Can you talk with regard to our standard policy with regard to short-term rentals in a 1, 2, 5, and 10-year? And you're requesting a deviation on that, is that correct?
Correct. And we talked through it with staff today. The initial request was 20 years, and that was on our part a little bit, just not understanding.
Well, you're an attorney, you got to ask for more,
Yeah,
so
of
you can get
course,
less.
Of course,
So I-
yeah. So, I mean, like the constituent mentioned, we're not trying to go against what, the code allows for. We're just trying to make sure that, as much of the project as we can get, approved to proceed. And, to Mike's point, we're trying to make sure that this project, from the onset can, sustain itself. And by alleviating risk by, given a 7-year term for the event space, what we propose to staff, helps a lot on the front end to make sure that this project can operate. We aren't, subject to future approvals for every portion of the project. And that's, the short-term rentals was something we didn't understand with the code, and we clarified with staff. And so we're
I
just
mean, you
making-
talk about the short-term rental, you're referring to the caretaker
Correct.
property. Okay,
Correct,
all right.
yep.
That keeps getting brought up, and I don't want anybody to be confused that you could rent out the castle
Yeah.
for the night.
No, yeah,
All right.
correct.
All right. All right, I think that answers that. We're going to go to staff and we'll get some more further clarification to Mr. Palmer's concerns. Any questions from the commission before I go to staff? All right, we'll go to staff and get their recommendations.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Byron Toy Planning Department. So to reiterate, the representative for the Sour Castle, there's the 125 for if it's being vacated, if property is being vacated, if it's occupied, if, for example, security or caretaker maintenance of the property is remaining on site, then it's 2510 as far as the order of things. If someone's going to be there and somebody has the ability to rent it out and they're staying on the property, then it's 2 years, 5 years, 10 years for first year, second year, third year, and subsequent approvals after that. With that, we will confer with Public Works regarding any future possible improvements to Shawnee Road, specifically as asked by Dr. Serta earlier in this testimony. With that, staff recommends approval with the amended condition of 29 related to the short-term rental specifically for 2 years, and then adding condition number 32, which is for 7 years for the event space to align with future renewals if the applicant seeks to do so with the STR.
All right, so just to clarify, the recommendation is for 2 years on the on the short-term rental because of on-site management, correct?
Correct.
All right, and then 7 years on the event space.
Correct.
All right, thank you. Any questions from the commission on the staff recommendations? All right, seeing none, I'll stand for a motion when ready. I'm going to need 4. I'm sorry, Rose, can you give me the order that you want these?
Probably the master plan amendment first,
Okay, and then,
and then the change of zone.
Got it.
Special use permit, and then the plat.
okay, I'll entertain a motion on the master plan amendment. Commissioner Jones.
Planning Commissioner, Chairman,
Yes.
you also need to do the plan review
Oh, yeah.
And where do you want that to fall?
last.
Got it. All right, so we need 5, correct?
Yep, correct.
All right, thank you. All right, Commissioner Jones, master plan amendment.
Motion to approve Master Plan Amendment 2025-006, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
All right, motion to approve master plan amendment 2025-006 made by Commissioner Jones. Is that a second, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. Now I'll entertain a motion for the change of zone application. Commissioner Easterwood, is that your hand?
Yes, sir.
All right, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve SP 2025-031, subject
This would
to,
be change of zone application 2025-009.
oh, sorry.
That's all right.
Okay. COZ application 2025-009, subject to staff recommendations and stipulations.
All right, that motion is for approval, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion to approve change of zone application 2025-009 made by Commissioner Easterwood, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. Now I need a motion to approve special use application 2025, sorry, -031. Commissioner Jones?
Motion to approve special use permit 25-031, subject to staff stipulations and comments, including the amending of condition number 29 and the addition of condition number 32.
All right, thank you. And I apologize if I asked for a motion for approval. I am wanting a motion. So thank you for that motion to approve with the added stipulations for special use application 2025-031. Is that a second, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. Now I need a motion on plat 2025-011. Commissioner Jones.
Motion to approve plat number 2025-011, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion to approve plat 2025-011 made by Commissioner Jones. Is that a second, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes, it is.
Thank you. Any discussion? Roll call.
Okay, Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. And finally, I'll need a motion on the plan review application 2025-016. Commissioner Jones.
Motion to approve plan review case 2025-016, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion to approve plan review application 2025-016 made by Commissioner Jones and seconded by Commissioner Easterwood. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Okay, Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Everything goes except the plat. Is that correct?
Byron Toy Planning Department, plat and final plan.
Okay, plat and final plan will not go. Everything else will go before the Board of Commissioners on June 26th. Is that correct, Rose?
Yeah.
Thank you, at 7 PM. Thank you all for your presentation and good luck with your venture.
Okay, our next application is COZ 2025-010, Bob Layton. It is a change of zone from AG Agricultural District to R1 Single Family District for a residential subdivision at 2623 South 69th Street in conjunction with plat 2025-014. It is a preliminary and final plat for a residential subdivision, Sotolar, at 2623 South 69th Street. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the city's currently adopted master plan, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to the property owners. Does anyone on the commission have any contacts to disclose on this case?
No. Thank you. Mr. Layton?
No, Frank
Oh.
Sattler.
Okay, go ahead and give us your name and address, please.
Frank Sattler, property owner.
Okay. And so the property
Layton.
owner at what address? 2623 South 69th?
Correct.
Okay, tell us what you'd like to do.
Well, we're looking to subdivide the plat for a second house. Property size limits its use as an agricultural, so we have to rezone it. to,
Okay. And so there's
gonna
already a
do-
residence there now and you want to
Correct.
build another one?
And that would stay as it is. And on the property needs 5 acres to stay agricultural. So
Okay.
That's the subdivision.
All right.
Remaining part then will be a single family housing.
Okay. Anything else you want to add?
That's it.
All right, thank you. Any questions with this applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, please come forward or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their comment.
Rodney Lucas, interim assistant county administrator. Staff recommends the city planning commission make the following containment within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues, and recommend approval of petition COZ 2025-010 and plat 2025-014, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll need 2 motions, one on the change of zone application and one on the plat.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
make a motion to approve change of zone 2025-010, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion to approve change of zone application 2025-010 made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second, Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong. Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. This will be heard once again on June 26th at 7 PM before the Board of Commissioners. Now I need a motion on plat 2025-014.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
make a motion to approve plat 2025-014, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion for approval of plat 2025-014 made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second, Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay. Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst. Ernst,
Sorry. Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Thank you both for being here. Thank you for your patience tonight.
Okay, our next application is COZ 2025-0313. Properties by Tracy and Wilma Hayward. It is a change of zone from AG Agricultural District to R Rural Residential District for a residential subdivision, Hayward Acres at 9630 Nelson Avenue and 4321 North 97th Street in conjunction with plat 2025-013. It is a final plat for 3 residential lots at 9630 Nelson Avenue and 4321 North 97th Street. Does anyone have any contact to disclose on this application?
No.
No.
All right, is the applicant available this evening? Properties by Tracy and Wilma Hayward.
like Crystal Vaughn.
Okay, Crystal Voth, are you representing the applicant?
Hi, good evening, Chairman Carson. Yes, I'm Crystal Voth, representing the applicants, Properties by Tracy and Wilma Hayward. We're requesting this rezoning from the agricultural zoning district to the R1 zoning district, so that we can take these two existing lots that are both really quite large and are becoming difficult for the property owners to maintain, and to turn it into 3 lots. The property owner to the north, the Properties by Tracy, Mr. Douglas, they actually are planning to build on the newly created lot. They're desiring to build a house and property that's a little more manageable. And then they would sell the home, the existing home. So that is the reason for the request. We understand the conditions as outlined in the staff report, and we agree to those conditions. We thank you for your consideration of this, and we'll answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition? Raise your hand if you're online or come forward if you're in the chambers. Seeing no one, we'll close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to staff and get their comment.
Staff recommends that City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues, and recommend approval of petition COZ 2025-013 and plat 2025-013, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized by conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion. I'll need 2. One will be on the change of zone application 2025-013 first.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve change of zone 2025-013, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion for approval made of change of zone application 2025-013 by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. Now I'll take a motion on plat, 2025-013.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve plat 2025-013, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion for approval of plat 2025-013 by Commissioner Ward. Is that seconded by Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Yes, thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Okay, Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones, Jones,
Aye.
oh, sorry, Moeller,
Aye.
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Change of zone application will go to the Board of Commissioners on June 26th. Again, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, our next application is SP 2024-116 Nadia Griffith with Latin Quarters. It is a special use permit for a drinking establishment with live entertainment and events at 508 Kansas Avenue. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area in question, the currently adopted master plan for the area, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application, other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone have any contact to disclose on this application?
No.
No.
All right. Thank you. Yes, sir. Are you representing the applicant again this?
Yeah, we are both owners.
Okay, go ahead and give us your name and addresses, please. And I know you've been busy in the last month.
Israel Mendez, 15529 Floyd Street.
Okay,
Nadia Griffith, 11, same address.
okay. All right, who wants to go ahead and present? What are you planning on doing here?
We're just sticking to the original plan and we're just getting the renewal done.
Okay, well, we've got people that weren't here last month, so I just need you to give me a quick synopsis.
So restaurant and bar downstairs, it's kind of similar to what the beautiful castle, but we already have it already renovated and to bring people up to speed, we had it already ready anyhow, but we had a fire permit that we needed. And I don't understand why they still have that old picture from 4 years ago, but it's very clean and we have everything fixed.
Okay, and you had the fire approval,
Correct.
inspection done?
But we had another, like we had more stuff added to it because some more firefighters came. So it's a very extensive approval that'll meet national, even FDA, everything. So we needed to add another door on the second level, structural engineering, just the works, but we have everything done.
All right. Anything else you want to bring us up to date on, or?
No, it's still, everything is the same.
All right, thank you. Any questions for this applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the public want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, please come forward or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their comment.
Staff recommends that City Planning Commission make the following containment within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues, and recommend approval of petition SP 2024-116 for 2 years, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'll stand for a motion when ready.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I move to approve special use permit 2024-116, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion to approve special use application 2024-116 made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second, Commissioner Easterwood?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. This will be heard once again, June 26th, 7 PM before the Board of Commissioners. Thank you. Good luck.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Knight.
Okay, our next application is Todd Gearhart, SP 2025-024. It is a special use permit for a short-term rental at 7832 Kansas Avenue. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map for the area, the master plan for the area, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application, other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone on the commission have any contact to disclose on this application?
No. Mr. Gearhart, I have you queued up, ready to speak. If you would, start off with your name and address and tell us what you'd like to do at your property.
Todd Gearhart, 1405 South 80th Street, Kansas City, Kansas. We're turning this into a short-term rental. So it's just a mile north of where we live. And my wife recently retired, and so she wanted to manage a property. We already have one other long-term rental that's nearby us. And we picked this up as an investment. We think it's a great location, you know, really close to downtown, but also the Legends. And so we're looking for this as, you know, kind of a retirement income plan, and hopefully it goes well and we can buy another one.
All right, thank you very much. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, please come forward or raise your hand if you're online. Seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their recommendation.
Yes, staff recommends that City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues, and recommend approval of petition SP 2025-024 for 1 year, subject to all comments, suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized by the following conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve special use permit 2025-024, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion made for approval of special use application 2025-024, made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second? Commissioner Schwartz?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. This will be heard once again, June 26, 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, the next application is SP 2025-025, David Dial. It is a special use permit for a short-term rental at 4509 Garfield Avenue. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city has currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the zoning map for the area in question, the currently adopted master plan for the area, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application of other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone on the commission have any contacts to disclose on this application?
No. Mr. Dial, I have you queued up, ready to speak. If you would, start off with your name and address, please.
Hi, good evening, board. This is David Dial, 4695 Calle de Vida, San Diego, California. Yes, I am an out-of-state owner, and I'm obviously not owner occupied. However, I do have multiple Airbnbs, whatever you want to call them, short-term rentals in the Kansas City metro area, both in Casey Mo and Overland Park. As you're aware, probably Casey Mo has very stringent short-term rental regulations, and we've been able to operate there and in Overland Park with no complaints from neighbors. The way we do that is we first of all screen everybody that comes in. We don't allow local renters. We don't allow renters to rent without 3 days advance notice. We also have security cameras at our properties, external security cameras, and actual noise monitoring that monitors the decibel levels so that we can be alerted if there actually is some kind of potential noise issue. We can let the guests know ahead of time before there's a problem and before neighbors become irritated. So we are good neighbors. I have pest service at the property for rodents, a bug service. I've already put 10,000 plus into the property for fencing to fence the backyard, for give us privacy, but also from the neighbors their own privacy. And also added quite a bit of drainage. There was a drainage issue. Obviously, the house is on a slope, and our downhill neighbor previously, our drains when we bought the property would the spouts would just go straight onto the grass and go down into his property. And a good expense out of my own pocket of added French drains and buried the downspouts to drain to the back of the property so that they're not impacting anybody's property. So I appreciate your consideration tonight, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? When you talk about do you have on-site management there in Kansas City since you're out of town, or how is it managed?
Yeah, exactly. Yes, I have local management. I have Miss Jones, who helps me on occasion, time to time, whenever I need assistance. A handyman at the ready. Also, obviously, the place is regularly cleaned, so my cleaner, she's visiting the property when she goes. And so, we have service to, take the trash to the curb and bring the trash back. And so there's a lot of eyes on the property on a weekly basis.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for this applicant? Okay, seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, raise your hand if you're online and come to the microphone if you're in the audience. I've got Pedro online. Pedro.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, Pedro Espinoza, 4515 Garfield Avenue, so the next door neighbor. I was really just directed towards Daniel, but if you could let your management know that when they hire someone to mow the yard, to not blow the grass, towards my property. It's been 3 occasions now where they have bigger mowers, they cut it fast, and it's not an issue that they're blowing it onto the driveway, but most of it splatters like directly onto my vehicles. And so I don't want to have to I don't have to wash my vehicles every time they come by to mow. But yeah, there we go.
But
Yeah.
are you supportive of the application? And we'll talk to Mr. Dial about his mowers.
Yeah, I haven't had any issues with the tenants themselves. It's just been with the maintenance crews, I guess.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Anything else you wanted to add?
No, that's it.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Anyone else? All right, Mr. Dial, I'm sure you heard the concern of your neighbor. You wouldn't mind talking to your mowing crew to make sure we don't get any complaints?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, thank you. And you understand that's kind of the thing about special use permits. If we get complaints, they're pretty easily revoked.
Understood.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, we will now close the public portion of the meeting. We'll go to staff to get their comment.
Chair, staff recommends that City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues, and recommend approval of petition SP 2025-025 for 1 year, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized by the following conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will stand for a motion of special use application 2025-025.
Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve special use permit 2025-025, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. A motion to approve special use application 2025-025 for a period of 1 year, correct, Commissioner Ward?
1 year, yes.
Thank you. Made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second? Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong. Aye. Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. This application will be heard once again on June 26th before the Board of Commissioners at 7 p.m. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next application is SP 2025-027 Whitney Preston. It is a special use permit for keeping 3 goats at a residential property at 3644 North 59th Street. The following items were included as part of a record for this case. The city is currently adopting zoning and subdivision regulations, the official zoning map, master plan for the area question, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notices in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone have any contacts to disclose on this application?
No. Okay, Whitney Preston, I have you queued up, ready to speak. If you would, please give us your name and address. Tell us what you'd like to do here.
Yes, good night, everyone. Whitney Preston, owner and resident at 3644 North 59th Street. I have just shy of an acre out here and a master's in animal science. So I am needing some critters. I've worked with livestock for over a decade. So just kind of wanting a little bit of a hobby farm. They will be non-breeding goats. There's wooded properties on each side of me except to the north. All the direct neighbors are favorable to the idea. And that's pretty much all I got.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, come forward or raise your hand. Seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their comment.
Chair, staff recommends that City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues and recommend approval of petition SP 2025-027, subject to 2 years to all comments, suggestions outlined in the staff report and summarized in the following conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion.
Commissioner Ward.
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
Make a motion to approve special use permit 2025-027 for a term of 2 years, subject to staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion made for approval of special use permit 2025-027 by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Is that correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. This will be heard once again on June 26th at 7 p.m. before the Board of County Commissioners. Thank you.
The next application is SP 2025-028 Kelly Spencer with Creative Tots Childcare. It is a special use permit for a daycare at 2515 Haskell Avenue. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the zoning map for the area in question, the master plan for the area, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the application and other documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone have any contact to disclose on this application?
No. Thank you. Ms. Spencer?
Hi, my name is Kelly Spencer. Oh, I'm tired. Sorry.
I'm sorry. We tried to make you wait longer, but we're down to the last two. So
Yes. Okay. So my property is 25 Haskell Avenue. So I'm trying to operate a daycare at 25 Haskell Avenue. I'm asking for the minimum of 12 children due to the overhead. Right now, they're only allowing me to start off with 5 children, which is not enough for my overhead income. The state of Kansas allows up to 12 children for the home.
okay, now you're saying 25 Haskell, you mean
2515.
2515? Okay. And you're requesting 12.
12 children.
You
Yes.
have to be approved for that, right, by this, is there a state licensing?
Right, but that's why I have to come here because I don't live in a home. So
Okay.
when you don't live in a home, you gotta go through a zoning. So they only will approve you for 5. That's why I had to come here to get the proof for the 12, to get the
Okay.
minimum of 12 children.
All right. Well, that's probably why we made you wait so long.
Yes.
I'm teasing. All right.
You're fine.
Anything else you want to add?
I did have a lot on here, but you want me to add? I mean, I can say it, but I was gonna say about,
You're going to operate from 6 to 6, right?
no, 6 to 5.
6 to 5. Okay.
Yes, I have 3 rooms. I have a playroom with the learning curriculum. I have a baby room, a toddler room. The children will eat breakfast, lunch, and a snack in the evening.
And you've got assistants?
Yes, I have 1 helper. The parents would enter the west of the side of the house. The kids will too as well.
Okay.
Mhm.
Let's see if we got any questions for you. Anyone have any questions for this applicant? Seeing none, anyone in the audience want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, please come forward or raise your hand. Seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their recommendation.
Chair, staff recommends that the City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues and recommend approval of petition SP 2025-028 for 1 year, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in this staff report summarized by conditions.
All right, thank you. And you've read the staff report and you've seen all the conditions, correct?
Yes.
Okay, great. All right, any questions for staff?
Did you say approved for 8? Did I hear
It's
you?
approved for conditions. So one of the conditions, number 2, is a maximum of 12 children
Right.
shall be in the center.
Oh, okay. So obviously.
All right. Any
Okay.
questions for staff from the commission? Seeing none, I'll stand for a motion when ready.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
I make a motion to approve special use permit 2025-028, subject to staff stipulations and comments for a period of 1 year.
All right, thank you. Motion to approve special use permit 2025-028 made by Commissioner Ward, seconded by Commissioner Jones. Is that correct?
Correct.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood,
Aye.
Ernst,
Aye.
Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
Thank you. This is going to be heard one more time, June 26th at 7 PM before the Board of Commissioners.
Okay.
And their meetings are long compared to mine. I'm just warning you, get a good night's sleep the night before you come, because they're not near as exciting either.
Okay, so I gotta
All
come
right.
back and do this all over again.
Pretty much. We feel the same way. Thank you.
Okay, I believe it's our last application is plat 2025-017, Keith Chisholm. It is a preliminary plat to create one lot for Lakeside Church at 2600 and 2618 North 91st Street. The following items were included as part of record for this case. The city's currently adopted zoning and subdivision regulations, the zoning map for the area, the currently adopted master plan for the area, the staff report and attachments dated June 9th, 2025, the documents, plans, pictures, and maps submitted by the applicant, the notice in the Wyandotte Echo, and the notices to property owners. Does anyone have any contact to disclose on this application?
No.
No.
All right. Thank you for being with us and thank you for your patience. If you would, please give us your name and address. Tell us what you'd like to do.
My name is Pastor Keith Chisholm. Address is 233 Southwest Ashcott, Lee Summit, Missouri. I am currently the pastor there at Lakeside. And it is a neighborhood church. It's been there since 1960. And we are serving the community with all we can do. And we see where we need to expand to do more for the ministry. I have my church administrator here. She's going to read some purposes.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Your name and address, please, also.
Hi, my name is Laurie Hayes, 2735 Haskell Avenue. I'm a lifetime resident of Wyandotte County. I've been at Lakeside for over 30 years. And the purpose for this expansion was to be a bigger and better ministry. We're seeking to do feeding programs for families. We have already corresponded and worked with Wyandotte County Mutual Aid, Heart to Heart, and Harvesters. We are looking forward to our after-school program with the school down the street, which is Lowell Broom. We have Young Men's Positive Vibe, which we have already in place, and they will correspond and work with youth from Boys Home. We have worked with Avery's Village in the past. We intend to do our drug and alcohol programs with counselors available to assist, helping with aid and assistance to families who've been shut out of other programs, and bring God's word to a hurting community. We thank you and God bless.
Thank you. Pastor, anything you wanted to add? All right, great. Thank you. Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, we'll go to the public. I don't think there's anybody left, but anyone want to speak to this case in favor or in opposition, raise your hand or come forward. Okay, seeing no one, we'll go to staff and get their comment.
Thank you, Chair. Last one of the night. Staff recommends that the City Planning Commission make the findings contained within the staff report related to factors to be considered and key issues and approve Lakeside Properties preliminary plat 2025-017, subject to all comments and suggestions outlined in this staff report summarized by conditions.
All right, thank you. Any questions for staff? They probably could have done your addition while we've had this meeting and got it completed, couldn't they? Yeah, I think so too. Okay, no questions for staff. I'll stand for a motion.
Commissioner Ward,
Commissioner Ward, go ahead.
wrap up the night here with a motion for approval of plat 2025-017, subject to all staff stipulations and comments.
Thank you. Motion for approval of plat 2025-017 made by Commissioner Ward. Is that a second, Commissioner Jones?
Yes.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Strauss,
Aye.
Ward,
Aye.
Armstrong,
Aye.
Beth,
Aye.
Easterwood.
Aye.
Sorry, did you say aye or no?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Ernst,
Aye.
Jones, Jones,
Aye.
Moeller,
Aye.
Schwartz.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 9-0.
All right, thank you. And you all are approved, so good luck to you and thanks for your patience tonight. All right, that does conclude our agenda. Thank you all. We will see you next month.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thank you all. Thank you.